time again. I think I want to start every podcast. I've been worried for a while now about how to start the Rage Select podcast, Amanda. And I think I want to start by saying a thing that I've always wanted to say, but I've never had a reason to say.
Oh man, I have a joke, but it would not be appropriate.
like today, I was watching Deep Space Nine, and who was it? It was Jonathan Frakes was playing Riker on there, and one of the people was razzing him, and he turns to her and he's like, "You shouldn't go fishing today. You're not going to catch a thing." And I was just like, who says that?
He fucking says that.
Fucking Riker. Hey, everyone, welcome to the Rage Select podcast. I am Jeff.
I'm Amanda.
And we have a good day for podcasts. We've got a lot of stories to talk about. We got a lot of other stuff to talk about. We got questions. We're doing the whole 9 yards. It's a classic Rage Select podcast, full of rage,
breaking it down old school,
full of selection.
Drop that funky fresh beat.
Like sick drops this entire time, man. You can't even handle it. So we have a bunch of fun stories to talk about. But before we do, it is customary to talk about the thing that the one thing from last week. Last time it was the Orville that you and I talked about.
Oh yeah, that's right.
This week there's a new Star Trek show on.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I did see it. I watched the first 2 episodes of it.
The greatest thing you've ever seen. Oh my god, everyone has to go out and pay for the streaming service for the one show.
Oh no, don't ever do that. Don't fucking do that.
Do not encourage them.
Yeah, unless you're just like, you know what? I find myself through the course of the day being like, I really want to watch Jag, but all the episodes aren't on Hulu.
What am I going to do with all this money I have?
If only there was a streaming service where I could watch every episode of Jag and every episode of NCIS. Actually,
have you been talking to John?
It's literally for John Sitton. That's who it's for. No, but I watched the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery. Okay, so I didn't really like it all that much, but there's a thing. But then I realized something.
It's because you want Seth MacFarlane in it?
No. Yeah, okay. God. I don't want Seth MacFarlane in Orville. He's the worst part of that show. Like, if you just had somebody else, like, bring me Gilbert Gottfried to be
Jesus. I mean, I'm not going to lie.
All a head full. Fire the torpedo. No, anyway, okay, so I watched it. Okay, one of the biggest problems that I have this problem with video games, with movies. A lot of places do this, Amanda. You know when you got a thing, right? So you've got a movie, right? And they do a sequel, and they do a second sequel, and that's great. But they just can't help themselves, and they want to do more. So they do a prequel, and that does real well.
Are we talking about Star Trek or Star Wars?
But in this case, okay, the things I don't like about everybody that I know, Grant and Randy, they have their own like podcasts talking about this. They loved it,
right?
And if you like the Abrams running around just fucking lens flares and all kinds of bullshit going on,
right?
You will probably like this. Me personally, I'm kind of a fan of like old boring. Let's just like go have a very quiet space adventure Star Trek and not just like everything blows up. So this did not really resonate very much with me.
So did it not feel like Star Trek to you?
It feels like Abrams Star Trek, even though it feels like it should be in the Abrams Star Trek universe.
Even though they very specifically said it is not Abrams Star Trek?
It's set in Prime. I have the first episode up while we're talking right now. And so I actually found this out today when I was watching a thing. And this is a thing that I don't know if other people get bugged about this, but I certainly do. This apparently takes place 9 years before Kirk's first voyage. I don't know how the fuck they expect me to resolve in my brain that this looks like the year 6 billion and Kirk looks like the year 6
billion and 9,
like 1962.
Yeah.
But the main issue that I had with this is two things. First of all, in my esteemed opinion, Star Trek has been on a downward curve. Right, at least the shows. TNG was great. Deep Space Nine, in some ways, I think is even better. I think it's like the pinnacle of Star Trek when it's at its very best. TNG, actually, that's not true. TNG, Deep Space Nine, I feel like are on equal footing. Like the best TNG and the best DS9, I put them up head to head any day. I love Captain Sisko and the whole DS9 crew. Voyager didn't really do much for me. I mean, like, you know, and it's not because Kate Mulgrew is like not a good actress or like I hate women or anything like that. It's just
that's a totally separate issue.
That's a whole other thing. It's mostly just that like they set up another they set this Voyager thing up and then it just didn't I don't know, it just didn't hit for me, right? Like
was it just a writing thing or like a showrunner thing?
I didn't like the crew. Basically, is you know Janeway's
too many women. Too many women.
No, Janeway's too much of is a bit of a hard ass. It's like she's trying to prove something. Chakotay is not really a very interesting character. Tuvok is just a standard Spock stand-in. Harry Kim is a fucking downright irritating piece of garbage. B'Elanna, okay, and Tom Paris is acceptable, but for the most part, I didn't like the crew. Then we go over to Enterprise, and I liked Enterprise less than Voyager. Because Captain Archer is a garbage person who won't listen to what anybody's telling him. And then you look at the movies. So post First Contact, you've got Insurrection, which it was First Contact, Insurrection, which I didn't like, and then Nemesis, which was gross. And then even in the Kepler universe, I thought the first J.J. Abrams Star Trek was good. Into Darkness gets worse every time I watch it, and Beyond was kind of forgettable. And I feel like this is yet another step in this direction that anybody who's familiar with Star Trek will be able to understand what I'm about to say. Where there is money on this screen that you're looking at right now. There is special effects and CGI artists.
Like just the costuming alone has to cost a bundle. Like
the yellow parts on their uniform have little
tiny insignia.
Starfleet insignias.
When people found out about that, they were like, they purposely made the most annoying thing for any cosplayer. They're like, everything has little tiny details. Good luck, cosplayers.
So, and I want to be real clear that I don't want to just say that this is the only example of this, because in a lot of ways Doctor Who is doing the same thing. In a lot of ways Game of Thrones has started to do the same thing. In a lot of ways Star Wars has started to do the same thing. And in a lot of ways even the stuff like the Marvel movies I've seen this, an emphasis on production value and spectacle over story. You know, some of the most memorable TNG episodes I've ever seen, like The Measure of a Man, which is the one where Data goes on trial. It's like 4 sets, and it's just like fucking Captain Picard, and it's like 6 actors just reading really well-written lines in a story that tugs at your heartstrings. This has billions of dollars of production value in it.
How do they make their money back?
I don't know. On their streaming service, apparently, because they won't make it on TV.
But that's a big gamble, is it not? Like, instead of selling advertisement, they're just hoping that you guys fork over enough cash?
I don't know. All I know is that there's some logical inconsistency in this that I didn't really like. I'm very critical about Star Trek, so I'm being overly critical about this.
Right. Yeah. It's like you're protective of a close friend or something.
Well, it was until today when I was thinking about it, and I realized, like I said, that the last show that I really loved from Star Trek, I didn't watch Deep Space Nine when it was on TV because the first 2 seasons were a little boring, and it takes a while to get ramped up. So I even stopped watching that, even though people were like, "Oh, it's great." But this show doesn't spend a lot of time with their characters. They spend a huge amount of time with just this main character, Michael, and I don't find her to be particularly interesting so far, just because she's the prime mover of the entire story. So we never really I don't feel like we have much time to know her. It's more just her running around and screaming and making things happen and doing stuff.
Yeah. And
I don't know. Like, I'm going to keep watching it, and if it gets better, as everything, you know, I'm willing to sit here and go.
It's hard to be overly critical when it's the first, even if it's first 2 episodes, because this was shown more like a 2-part.
Yes.
Almost like a movie split in 2 parts.
I think they let everybody watch the first part, but to see the second part, you had to sign up for their free streaming service.
Oh, wow.
For their streaming service.
Yeah. So I guess maybe it still could follow the 3-episode rule. I have a 3-episode rule.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the other side of this equation is I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Encounter at Farpoint is the best TNG episodes. Like, the first season of TNG is real rough. There's like 4 episodes that are truly magnificent. They really start hitting their stride. Trek's really start to hit their stride around season 3. I really hope there was a teaser here. I'll pull it up. There's a teaser at the very end of this, the second one, that shows you like what to expect this season. And again, it's like,
and they're like, action shot, action shot, action shot. Look at the money.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of like.
I mean, it's beautiful.
It's very pretty.
Yeah,
no,
because they did a thing where she was out of. The sound's off, and I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know the context. But she's out of.
She's out in space.
She's out in space, and they just show this like just a beautiful like panoramic shot of everything.
Yeah, I mean, it looks. It obviously has a lot of money in it. The real question is just whether are we going to be getting a show. I guess this is maybe what I'm wrestling with. To me, the science fiction that stays with me the longest is a show that has a clever premise or a clever twist to it, like the episode of Doctor Who Blink with the Weeping Angels, right?
Yes.
I think everybody who's seen it it remembers it.
I actually sold people on Doctor Who with Blink.
That episode,
yeah.
And it's not especially. It didn't need a shitload of. Like the antagonists never move, right? It's just camera tricks and a bunch of styrofoam, kind of gargoyles.
Yeah.
But it's very clever, and that's the kind of science fiction that I like. This first episode was not clever. I mean, like, I don't have any problems with saying
a little generic sci-fi.
It was an action, like, my destiny and like blah 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 blah. It was not clever. It was not a clever episode about a clever thing. It was just kind of establishing characters.
Was that who?
Dwight from The Office?
Yeah.
Yeah. He plays a character.
Okay. I know who he plays. That's right. I did know who he was in it. I was just kind of jarring to see him.
Right. But the other thing that I'm going to say, and then we are going to move on because we got Red Dead trailer to talk about, is that it seems almost like they wanted to make a crazy like action-packed adventure, like with all this production stuff. I don't, for the life of me, understand why they didn't just make it in the future past the rest of it, right? Like,
do you think you'd be more forgiving if they made it in the future past the rest of it, or because they shoved so much money between two things that were happening during different points of technology as far as filmmaking is concerned?
Well, so here's the problem that I have, is that there's a cynical part of me that says the only reason that they've said it here is so that they can do so that they can hit all the fan favorites.
Yeah, so they can throw those characters in instead of...
okay, spoil... no. The Dwight from The Office is playing a character that shows up in TOS, or a relative of that same character. I'm not going to say this has never happened before. Brent Spiner was on Enterprise as Dr. Noonien Soong's like great-grandfather, and he was doing all this stuff, and at the end he's like, maybe someday I'll do something with robots. Maybe not me, but maybe my kids, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Which obviously is not the best writing in the world. But if they wanted to do this, the only reason that I can think of to put it here is so that you can shove in all of the old TOS favorites, so that you can cash in on the nostalgia of Trek fans by going like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at here, we got a Tribble episode. Ooh, here we've got like the Borg, but we still don't know who they are because technically we don't know who they are until later on. You know, like Enterprise kind of did some of that similar stuff, and it rankles me because it.
But this doesn't seem like it needs it because it's so technologically advanced and it's so pretty, and they can do so much with like makeup effects and things. You can really be much more creative about what you're doing as opposed to going backwards and relying on anything else. We've been so long without a Star Trek series that I feel like you don't necessarily need to be like, hey, everyone, like Doctor Who, and they're like, hey, do you guys remember the Daleks? The Daleks were a thing, huh?
Right. I don't know. See, the thing is that this made me feel an awful lot like an old man because I got bad news for you, Jeff. Well, here's the thing. I fucking love Rick and Morty. Twin Peaks lost me a little bit, but I enjoyed it as well. I don't dislike everything that happens. It's just like,
see, everyone, you have proof. He doesn't dislike everything.
I even have been enjoying parts of Orville, which I've been continuing to watch. Like, in some ways, it's a pretty good show. But this, I went online and I saw everybody saying, Oh my God, that was amazing.
You know, like
that was
heaping
great.
praise on it. Yeah.
I saw some people that were obviously Trek fans that were like, "This is as good as you know the." I forget the name. The old like some of the best TOS episodes. Like somebody online said this is as good as Best of Both Worlds, and I'm like, that's just not possible. The best of Both Worlds is the 2-parter where Picard gets turned into a Borg. Everybody knows about this.
Yeah.
He becomes Locutus, and Riker takes over.
Yeah.
And the thing is that only works because you had 4 seasons to get to know these
earned it,
characters.
yeah.
And then when the Borg take Picard and they can't get him back, and it's Riker versus Picard, and it's just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it's like, it's a bunch of Klingons.
Are you saying this is Batman versus Superman as opposed to
Dark Knight?
Civil War?
Oh, Civil War? No.
Do you know what I mean? Where
Yes.
like they spent much more time like earning it as opposed to like this that expects you to be into it already.
I guess that's the thing, is that they've got so much going on in their plot that I feel
Also,
like,
you're welcome, everyone. I snuck in a little stab at DC. I know how much you love it.
yeah, they don't. Like everybody seems to love this new character, this Michael character.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I got enough time with her to really find anything out about her.
Yeah, she also looks like FemShep. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you just like hit the random on created characters,
Yeah.
she looks like that. Bye.
Sorry. Yeah, we're just in the middle of a thing.
That's a great scene to just like.
But you know, there's like she's got a mysterious backstory. I don't know.
Maybe it's I haven't seen it. I'm gonna have to check it out. I really want to, but I'm sure I'll talk about it on Agents of Mayhem when I do get it to watch it.
Yeah.
So then you have to watch Agents of Mayhem if you want. You want to hear my opinion, but. I feel like maybe it's the kind of thing that it expects you to invest time into, and the more you invest, the more it'll like earn the slower parts. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of action shows will have slower episodes, but they don't jump into those right away.
Yeah, I feel like
Especially in modern television as opposed to like previous television. That technology...
They use a lot of hologram communications in this show, which is a bit of a problem for me because there's an episode of DS9 where they get holographic communications, and then at the end they're like, yeah, this seems too fiddly. We're not going to actually use that. But like, if you just had these straight up hologram guys, I mean, the only thing I could think of is if at the end of this, if what they're doing is at the end of... There's a potential here for something that's kind of interesting, but I don't know how they do it, which is how they square the circle of 9 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
The button boards need to be black with a bunch of crystals on them, and everybody needs to be wearing fucking yellow sashes and bacon weave beehives and like those short
mini-ass skirts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's not a long way. Like these Klingons look like they came out of Batman versus Superman, and in the Trouble with Tribbles, the Klingons are just like a dude in blackface with a kind of severe shirt on, and he's like, "I'm a Klingon," arr!" And these guys look like monsters.
Yeah, how are we gonna bridge the gap from this to a dog in a fuzzy outfit?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Also, they explained in Enterprise why. They actually had an episode of Enterprise where they explained why the Klingons in TOS look like dudes in blackface with a severe shirt on, and it just doesn't. And now they're just like, but no, I guess question mark.
Question.
So, also they have a problem if they try to trade on Trek nostalgia. If they don't completely bust up the timeline, no Romulans. Nobody sees a Romulan until TNG. So you can have Romulans, but you can't talk with them. So there's a limited drama room there. No Borg, because the Borg hadn't been identified when they showed up in TNG. So you can't just have that happen. Like there's a lot of stuff that if you wanted to trade on the nostalgia is going to be hard. The Ferengi don't show up until TNG. You can't use the Ferengi. Like, you can't use the Romulans. You got the Vulcans, but they use the fuck out of them in Enterprise. You know, the Vulcans and the Andorians and the Tellarites. But like, I don't know. It's
That makeup effects on that character though, the
big guy
with the pink face.
Yeah.
He's
like,
that looks really good.
It does.
He's really nice to look at. I don't know what he's saying.
He's got like
I can only assume glorious things.
he's got like 5 lines, and they tell us
Just the most racist things. He's just the worst. No.
He tells us one thing, and that on his planet, his people evolved from prey animals, so their biggest thing is that they can sense when death is near.
Yeah, that's in
from
the trailer.
From the trailer,
yeah,
right?
I saw that in the trailer.
Which this is one of those things where, like, that's a cool line, but just like you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Yeah.
If you think about it for 2 seconds, I'm like, so how are you sensing death in space? Like, if you were a prey animal, that means you can sense, like, the musk of a predator or whatever. Or are you a psychic? Or, like, how does that work? What do you mean you can sense when death is near?
Yeah.
That seems like something
So
that would
when you say when death is near, does that mean like if somebody is kind of sick and they might die, but they might not die, that it's near, but it's not necessarily there? Or is this imminent death? Is this avoidable death? Is that power useless because once you sense it, you're dead? It doesn't really matter in the first place?
Hey, if it works in outer space with starships, it seems like you shouldn't just be the science officer. Like, there should be one of you on every single ship in the entire Federation to go, Captain, death is near. Death is coming, Captain. Don't hail that probe.
I mean, the funnier thing would to be like him saying you can sense when death is near, and he's standing near somebody and just looks over that person takes 2 steps further away from him.
Yeah, it would be great if there was a scene where he could sense that death is near and they're on the bridge, and when they're going to get into one of those things where you know how in Star Trek the bridge blows up and then like 2 people are dead, but we don't actually see them die. It's just they got blood on their face. If he's just like, oh shit, get out of that chair.
Yeah.
Get away from that panel.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't really care for it. But you know what? I didn't care for episode 1 of Rick and Morty. I didn't care for episode 1 of Farscape. I didn't care for Encounter at Farpoint.
God, I love Farscape so much.
Yeah, I do too. No, actually, that's not true. I like episode 1. I don't like episode 2 because it gets boring.
I liked the pilot for the original series for Star Trek, and I didn't like the first episode of the original series. If that makes sense.
You know the salt lady, the salt,
yes.
saltivore or whatever.
Yeah, but the pilot,
that's the one where Spock's got that sweater on, and it's just like, oh,
I know
God,
it's
Spock.
jarring, but I really liked Pike, and it was actually legitimately hard for me to go from Pike to Captain Kirk.
I watched the 3rd episode. Oh, sorry, we're gonna get to this in just a second. But I watched the 3rd episode because after I watched that, I was like, "Am I crazy?" So I went back and watched. I was like, "I want to watch the 2nd episode of TOS, not season 4 of Voyager or like season 12 of whatever."
Yeah,
and so I was watching it, and I felt it was good. I felt it was that one with the salt lady. It's like it's a very basic plot. Us, the audience, are able to figure it out in 2 seconds flat because it's 2017 and we ain't no dummies.
Right, dude. The whole series is pretty easy to figure out fairly quickly.
But then I started watching the 3rd episode, and it's like I wasn't really paying a super close amount of attention, but like these guys have this creepy kid whose parents got killed, and they're like giving him to the Enterprise so that they can take him to like to a school or something. He's like a 17-year-old kid, and he immediately just starts. He sees what's her name, Ensign Yeoman or whatever.
Yeoman Rand.
Yeoman Rand. Ensign Yeoman. Yeah, right. Colonel Sergeant here. Ensign Rand or Yeoman Rand. And he is thirsty.
Okay, first of all, she's a fucking babe.
Oh no, I know, but like he like pursues her.
Yeah,
and then she's like, look, I don't know.
She's like, hey, I'm not into children. Thanks, though.
You can come. We're all going to be in Recreation Room 6 after my shift. You can come down and hang out with us. And then it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. They go to Recreation Room 6, and Spock's playing a fucking Vulcan guitar.
Oh, yeah.
And then Uhura just starts making up this song about the Enterprise.
Dude, okay, so this is the only thing. So watching that is the only thing like that I support that Uhura and Spock end up together in the J.J. Abrams stuff is because when you go back and watch, she hits on him hard.
Oh, that first episode with the Saltivore, she walks up to him and she's just like, Spock, ask me why I'm so mad. And he's like, why?
Yeah,
like,
he's so fucking oblivious. I love it.
Like, tell me I'm pretty. And he's just like, I don't know why I would do that. But yeah, she is all over. And actually, it's funny because they hadn't nailed down how emotionless Spock was. So like that part where he's playing his Vulcan guitar and she's singing along, there's some points where she all comes up on him and he's kind of like, no, I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
I love it. I like once I started seeing that, I was like, oh my God, it makes perfect sense.
also, Yeoman Rand's Bacon Weave Beehive is a thing of glory. You guys should all go check that out. Anyway, enough of this.
It's on Netflix. Just throwing that out there.
Let's get on to it. There's a new Red Dead Redemption trailer.
But what does that have to do with Star Trek?
Nothing.
Oh.
Nothing.
Sorry.
There was an episode
You guys
of
can stop listening now. We're not going to talk about Star Trek anymore.
Star Trek is a lot like Red Dwarf. There's an episode of Red Dwarf where they go to a cowboy simulation and Crichton has to overcome his fears or some such bullshit. Also, I'm pretty sure there's been at least one cowboy episode of Star Trek. There's got to be one cowboy episode of Star Trek.
I feel like I've seen somebody dressed like a cowboy.
I mean, there's gangsters. There's like 1920s gangsters.
I definitely saw that one.
And there's that one where everybody's like, it was America, and now they all like worship America, like a cult or whatever.
Weird.
Anyway,
Red Dead Redemption.
Red Dead Redemption 2, yes, and this is the story trailer for Red Dead Redemption. This
Tell everyone why you hate it.
So I've been playing Red Dead Redemption. No, this looks great. I mean, like, goddamn,
it's fucking beautiful, man.
It is a really nice trailer. What's our main character's name? Is like Sam. Was that his name or what was it?
I don't remember.
Arthur Morgan. That's his name. I think somebody.
He's got the crazy eye.
Somebody on Twitter already said Arthur Morgan, or as Jason will call him, Arturo Morocco.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So
I don't know. I don't watch that playthrough.
Hey, the beef continues.
The beef is real.
This looks really good. There's a lot of okay. So one of the things is that because we have Dutch in the trailer, a lot of people were wondering whether this was going to be a prequel that had John Marsden in it, where it was about his time in Dutch's gang.
Yeah.
Before.
So does it seem pre-Marsden joining the gang?
To me, I feel like this is post Marsden leaving the gang.
Okay.
I feel like this is. I feel like this is probably, or maybe not. Maybe it's going to be pre, and then the last scene of the game is going to be like, "Hi, I'm John Marsden. I want to be in your gang."
Well, like John and I talked about it. I didn't watch it. John didn't seem to mind and kept talking to me about it. Okay. That's what a relationship with John is.
Sure.
Like, whether you've watched it or not, he's going to talk to you about it. And I think Marsden was like 15 when he joined the gang.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think we're going to see some like wiry 15-year-old John Marsden.
I think so. I don't think he's going to factor much into this story, though.
Yeah. That was, I think they agreed.
Now, so because there is one thing, also, hold on. In this trailer, there's a part where where the guy is roping his horse. Look at this crazy horse.
Oh my God,
eyes.
that looks like a demon.
You could stop this clip anywhere, and this horse just looks like it's about ready to eat him. It's like smiling and fucking.
Has Jason Murphy seen that? Because I know he has a thing like a fear of goats, but this horse is like straight up demonic.
Yeah. So one of the reasons that I think that people think that it's going to be after that is after Marsden has already left the gang, is because Dutch and company seem to be like in real kind of like highfalutin circumstances.
Okay.
Like they seem to be doing well for themselves.
Are we assuming that Marsden was a part of them doing well for themselves and not joined them when they were already doing well for themselves?
There's a part where in Red Dead where Marsden says something like, when I was in Dutch's gang, we robbed like 400 banks or something crazy, like, or 40 banks or something crazy like that. So like, I don't know. But this character appears to be like a debt collector, and I don't know if this is going to be like, there's also stuff that looks like doing farm chores. So I think that there's been some question about like, maybe this is the guy that works for Dutch, and then Dutch brings him into the gang, and then you're kind of looking at it from that perspective. There's a lot of kind of speculation that the heist mechanic from GTA 5 is going to mutate into train robbery in
that makes sense.
Red Dead 2, which I think would be amazing, especially if they
it's fucking. They do one close-up shot of his face, and it's like, Crazy face.
I do kind of like the idea because, there's a shot of him telling this kid, like, oh, your mother's in mourning. Maybe I'll keep her in black on your account, like indicating he's going to kill him too. And he just looks like a fucking cold, hard son of a bitch.
Yeah, dude, he smiles and you're like, cool.
Yeah, like you know how Marsden had a family that he was trying to keep safe and was all conflicted. This guy just seems like a fucking psycho.
Yeah, I'm for it.
I am too. I like that idea. There's a silhouette in here that looks an awful lot like Bill Williamson from Red Dead, so we've got that. We've seen some prairies. We've seen some snowy mountains. There's a little bit of a swamp in here. There's a gator.
We saw a gator.
Yeah. It looks great.
He looks like the Shadow when he's all in his bandit gear.
Yeah. There's actually a part where we see him using a bow and arrow, which I don't think you actually do in Red Dead, and it also looks like he's hunting.
Yeah.
So there's
a chance that's a mechanic in it.
Well, there's always been there's a hunting mechanic in GTA 5 where you hunted for like sport, but and you did hunt in Red Dead for pelts that you could sell, and then later on, I believe there were like upgrades or something where you had to get a certain number of pelts to get a certain type of upgrade, kind of like Far Cry.
Yeah.
I watched a video that there was a lot of speculation about between the bank robbery and because you're much more of an outlaw. Like Marsden was more kind of like a bounty hunter trying to find a person.
He worked within the confines of the law.
Not really.
Sort of.
Sort of. I mean, he was just being blackmailed by federal agents, but
does that not mean you're working within the confines of the law?
I guess so. Yeah, they're very confining.
The literal confines of the law.
About the idea of like you can do robberies, but then you will get like hucked out of towns, so you've got to like survive out in the wilderness. With like maybe
that kind of makes sense, and it makes the world more dense. So because in Red Dead, you had those like sparse plots of land where there wasn't a lot of goings on except for random occurrences and things. So if you add hunting within it, I think maybe it'll make it feel a little more alive.
I think it would be very cool to have a survival mechanism if you had. Like kind of a Metal Gear Snake Eater, you have to eat food and you have to like keep warm.
It's a great place
and
to hide Bigfoot too.
That's true.
I'm just throwing it out
there.
Very
true. That's very true. In any case, at the end of the day, and also, there's a lady here who I feel like people online have said like, is that Bonnie?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like Bonnie to me.
Well, she looks older.
She looks older. She doesn't look like Bonnie. Has like
Bonnie
brown.
The wife or the girl that like had the farm that
Bonnie's the farm. Okay. Yeah, the girl with the farm, the lady with the farm, with her dad or whatever.
Remember their names? God, I haven't played that game forever.
But I don't think this is Bonnie. But I do like the fact that she looks like she's ready to kick some ass. Like she also dirty face.
She's got the red on her face that she looks like she drinks hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hard drinking people, but everything here looks like this is great. This is just showing Rockstar like showing off their tech and all the faces look.
There's
amazing.
A lot of walking away from explosions in this trailer.
That's true. That's true.
It's such a great shot though.
Yeah.
There's like a house on fire. What is that?
It's like a plantation.
Yeah,
almost.
on fire and they're walking away. That's definitely the guy on the left, isn't that?
Bill Williamson. I think so.
That's a great shot.
It is a very good shot.
If this were a movie, I'd be like, that's the money shot right there. That's the like.
That's the end of Django shot. Right there.
It's the like that's going in the trailer shot. Yeah.
But no, it looks fantastic. I had some stuff to say about how I thought that the original story trailer for Red Dead 1 was a little better because of the music and the cutting, but you know what? This is really good, and I did a lot of complaining about Star Trek, so I'm not even gonna go into that.
Yeah, I mean that's more nitpicking in comparison as opposed to just like this is good.
Yeah,
10 out of 10.
I think that
wood trailer again.
You know what I think the biggest thing is that okay, so Rockstar always has a flavor trailer, and then they do a story trailer. So for Red Dead, the story trailer, the My Name is John Marsden trailer, used my favorite music. That's like this very much kind of like spaghetti western, like horns and kind of a rhythmic drum. Great. I think that the first story trailer for Grand Theft Auto 5 was the one that used Skeletons by Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Great. The first story trailer for Grand Theft Auto 4 used Grupa Krovi, that Russian rap song that was in GTA 4. Fucking great.
So did you just know these off the top of your head, or did you research that beforehand?
I love Rockstar makes, in my opinion, the best trailers.
Yeah.
Even the L.A. Noire, the first Cole, not Phelps. That's a different Phelps. Is that his name? Anyway, the first character trailer for him.
Yeah.
Also, it had a very kind of like noir kind of
Yeah.
And I think that if I had one complaint with this trailer, it's that the music is kind of generic, whereas like I can go back and show you that I can almost describe to you the Grand Theft Auto 5 Skeletons trailer because I watched it so many times.
Yeah.
The Lost and the Damned used Wild Side by Motley Crue, Take a Walk on the Wilds. And then the Ballad of Gay Tony.
I thought you fucking liked them.
Ooh, Ballad of Gay Tony, you're fucking me up here. I don't know that one had a. I don't know that one. I think that might have used original music from the game, but I still remember all of them. And this is a really great trailer. It's just that I think I would have liked a slightly different musical selection that was a little bit more like oomphy, and that's the only thing I'll say.
Yeah. Well, I hope that they Red Dead Redemption had one of the best soundtracks a video game's ever had. As far as incorporating it into the world, not just being like, that's a cool song, that's a cool ass song, Snoop Dogg, that's a dope ass song. Like it was actually, it felt right. It was cinematic. Like there were points where specific songs would play during specific parts of the game. I really hope that they do that here too.
Okay. All right, well, let's move on. We're actually going to move a little bit faster because we have a lot of heavy topics, and we've spent a lot of time talking about Red Dead and Star Trek.
Yep. I blame you.
Yep. There is a new trailer there's a 5-minute trailer narrated by John Boyega for Star Wars Battlefront 2.
I love John Boyega. You didn't let me watch this beforehand. John Boyega was talking.
It's a 5-minute he's just telling you things about Star Wars Battlefront 2.
I love John Boyega.
Okay.
It would have been nice to know, to hear his voice.
I didn't know that you like John Boyega so much. There's just a lot of facts in this. I think there's an interesting thing where they do locations, heroes, and vehicles from Battlefront and then Battlefront 2, and then they compare the two of them. I like the fact that they have to include this color coding, that there's a certain amount of planets. I think there are 4 planets
that
in
are
the game
just single player only.
that are only for single player. But they talk about a lot of different things here. They talked about the different modes. They showed a lot of the planets: Camino, Yavin, Fondor, Starkiller Base. They talked about all the heroes. We have a pretty good idea of where the single-player campaign is going to go because it shows Sullust, Pilio, which I've never heard of, Vardos, never heard of, and then Bespin as levels. As far as the actual levels in the game, I'm a little bit. I really like Star Wars Battlefront, and I really like Star Wars. I'm kind of tired of the fact that, like, when you look at the layout of levels for this, that they're all movie places that we've already seen. So Death Star 2, Kashyyyk, Ryloth, Jakku, Endor, Hoth, Camino, Starkiller Base, Yavin, Foremost, Isley, Unknown Regions, which is like a space map. Fondor, which I think was from Rogue One, Takodana. I think is that the place where what's her face had the bar where they had the fight in Force Awakens.
I think so.
And then Naboo, and I'm like, you could just make up some other planets. I mean, there's the big fungus planet from the prequels that you could go on. You could do a fight on Dagobah. All I'm saying is, how many fucking times do I have to fight on Hoth? How many more Hoth multiplayer maps do I have to play?
Every time, because everyone loves Hoth.
Yeah.
You're the only one that doesn't.
I've just played a lot of Hoth in my time. They talk a lot in here about the heroes, about the way that you're going to have different classes, about having star cards, and the way that those were revamped. They do talk about opening packs to get star cards, which makes it seem like we're going to have an Overwatch type of thing.
A loot box, star card.
Yeah, or that you can earn battle points to spend on boxes.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Are they going to be accepting perhaps money for us to just buy this stuff?
Almost certainly. It's funny, they have a little thing with the heroes here. I think Han Solo looks like garbage here compared to the way he looked in Battlefront 1.
Yeah, he looks really weird.
I think he looked a lot more like
Maybe
Han
Harrison
Solo.
Ford was like, I don't want my face on this bullshit.
Well, because everybody else, I mean, Darth Maul and Rey and everybody, most of them are
Yeah,
also,
how could Darth Maul not look good? What could they possibly do? His makeup is smudged as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, Kylo Ren looks so much like Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's weird because when they talk about the
Something funny about Luke Skywalker using the Force and all these stormtroopers like, "Whoa!"
they talk about the single player mode, and there's a thing they've always shown in the single player mode of Luke, and he looks an awful lot like Mark Hamill. So
Yeah.
it looks good. I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't look it doesn't look good. In fact, you know what? I don't have any criticisms. I think this looks great, and I want to play it. The only thing that I've been worried about is whether all the new complexity is basically because it used to be that it was like baby's first online multiplayer game, right?
Yeah.
So it was super simple for everybody to get into, and then the people that were hardcore into Battlefront or Battlefield or whatever were like, "Oh, fuck this game! It's too much for babies." And so all us babies could just hang around and have fun playing a Star
baby
Wars game.
Do you think it's gonna not be a baby game now?
It seems like they're adding a lot of complexity, and I think that it's going to attract a more hardcore crowd, but it's fine.
But they also, like, they introduced a bunch of people to it, so now those people might be able to handle a little more complexity.
It's possible. But you know what? One of the things they actually talk about that I think was interesting is that they are going to have an offline bot match mode called Arcade that you can play like split screen with your friends. And I'm like, that's great. So if I feel like I'm getting my ass kicked too hard, I can just go play offline. Also, there's a single player story mode. And
I don't want to play with you guys anymore. I'm going to play offline.
it looks really good. I don't think it looks as good as the first one, strangely enough. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like the first one, they spent all this time doing like these super high resolution scans of all of the props, and this one just seems, it doesn't look bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, it looks really good to me.
It's just, I saw my friend play Battlefront 1 in 4K on his PC on like a 4K monitor, and it looked like a fucking movie. It looked like I was watching Star Wars. So, but yeah, it's coming out. It looks good. It's coming out later this year.
Looking
and
forward to playing
yeah,
it.
can't wait to play it. From that point, let us move forward into a whole segment that I like to call Ugh. Ugh. First up, YouTube. Ugh. So YouTube in an increasing, YouTube, I feel like YouTube lost a bet earlier this year. Like YouTube and Vimeo were at a bar, and Vimeo was like, if I could drink these 5 shots in like 4 seconds, then you have to be a dickhole to every person who makes content for you.
Yeah.
YouTube was like, you can't do that. There was a scam school bet, right? And they were like, haha, I did it. And they were like, oh, you tricked me. And like, you got to do it. So, have you heard about what's going on here?
YouTube is preventing Patreon links into their videos.
At the end cap.
Yeah, so like when people do those, I forgot what they're called, like the
End cap.
end cap screens on videos, typically used with like, hey, click this button here to subscribe, go over here to see the next video, click down here for my Patreon. You can't do that for Patreon anymore.
Yep.
Or any outside thing, right? Like, so like if you go, oh, we sell shirts, click over here, it doesn't link to merchandise pages.
Near as I can tell, I read 2 stories about this, so I wanted to try to get the specifics. I feel like I might still not have this entire thing mapped out.
Yeah.
But one of the bigger problems here is that you can do it, but you have to be a YouTube partner to do it, which means that you have to at least have 10,000 video views in order to apply to the YouTube partnership program.
Yeah.
Which means that small people who are just starting out, who need Patreon a lot, like me, I mean, we just started this podcast 200 episodes ago. We're very new to the internet.
Yeah, newborn baby over here.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not really a big deal for me specifically, but I can see how it's a big deal for partnerships. But this really just dovetails into the grand scheme of, like, YouTube doesn't fucking care, right? Yeah. They've shown their true colors. This is just, I don't know why anybody would be...
Now they're going all in on fuck content creators.
Yeah, like, they want family-friendly, appropriate content creators. Like... This is to me is a fucking slap in the face. So along with this, there was a there was let's see, let me make sure. Ryan Wyatt, YouTube's head of gaming content and partnership, issued a statement about the demonetization changes during the adpocalypse. And in the second paragraph on this, I'm reading this off of a Polygon article. He says, what does this mean for gaming creators? It means that if you see a yellow icon in your video dashboard and feel our automated systems got it wrong, please appeal. With 400 hours of video uploaded every single minute, we rely on machine learning to evaluate content across the platform. But no system is perfect. When you appeal, our reviewers take a look, and their decisions help our systems get smarter over time. Deleting the video and re-uploading it won't help. To which point I say, go fuck yourself. Like, it's not my job to make your broken system. It's not my job to beta test your fucked up broken system.
Yeah.
Like, I know that you have 400 hours you've 6 billion hours of content every 1 second that happens.
Yeah.
But just like Steam and just like so many other places, fucking YouTube doesn't spend, okay, I know YouTube spends no money on like technical support because I've tried and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Like, they want to automate this bullshit, and then they want me to make sure that it works correctly so that if you say Pussy Riot on YouTube, they can flag you so that Toyota doesn't accidentally put put an ad on your thing where you say Pussy Riot, and then they get all bent out of shape.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's not my job to make your, like, this was a place that has so much of the media that we are watching and consuming these days was built on YouTube by like dedicated content creators who are getting run off of the platform because fucking PewDiePie said a bad word, or like Macaroni and Kraft doesn't want to advertise on your video talking about Bayonetta.
Yeah.
And it, like, God help you that instead of saying like, Kraft, give us a list of things you don't want your ads on, it's the video creator's job to make the most bland content possible so as not to offend fucking anybody.
Yeah.
And then God forbid once that's done that you ask the people that are your loyal fans to go to an outside stream to give you money.
Because you're not going to make enough money to live off of if you do anything else. Also, it really bothers me for them to say, be sure to appeal so our reviewers can look at it. Do not act like you have reviewers. Do not lie to us. We all know that it's 100% automated, and your amount of reviewers, considering how many hours of content get posted every day that they openly talk about, there's not enough reviewers, and they know that. So the appeal process is bullshit anyway.
There's another quote here from a YouTube representative, just unlabeled YouTube representative, about this Patreon change. It says, creators are being asked to join the YouTube Partner Program so that we can evaluate the validity of the channel, as well as determine whether the channel is following our community guidelines and advertiser policies. This update is meant to curb abuse that does not affect current YouTube partners or existing end cards. So I don't know what fucking abuse it is to let somebody who made a video and put it on YouTube that is not monetized say, if you like me, here's my Patreon, help support me. I don't understand why that would be a problem. I understand if you clicked on that Patreon link and it sent you to downloadavirus.com, but like maybe suppress downloadavirus.com instead of punishing everybody for two people that did some bullshit.
Is it just they want you on that partnership program so they can get a piece of the money you're making?
Yes.
I mean, is that like not the most blatantly obvious thing that's happening right now?
That, and this is a thing that I've seen over and over in my life. You know what? Feel free to comment on this. Let me know what you think. I don't care. Maybe I'm wrong. But as near as I can tell, this is a thing that I've seen over and over and over in my life, where you've got a huge system like YouTube. The same is, I think, true with Steam, where you got a huge system and you've got a percentage of people that are abusing this system. And instead of trying to create systems to run those people the fuck off of your platform, you try to rewrite the rules of the platform so that those people never get in the first place, essentially trying to solve the problem forever. When the people that are acting like scumbags are going to, it's like fucking Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
They'll find a way onto your platform. You know, I don't know what,
if velociraptors can learn how to open a door, then then trolls will learn how to make shitty content.
Motherfucker, I'm so fired up about that. I do not know why this is happening. And when I click on when I go to my YouTube homepage, I see live now 24/7 streaming Rick and Morty episodes.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, man. Like, I've got to deal with this bullshit for Let's Plays, and you're letting people that
Like
they
live
don't
stream,
even,
yeah.
they don't even hide it. It's not like R&M 24/7 YOLO, bro, and then you like go search for the new hashtag to find out where it is. It literally says Simpsons episode streamed 24/7 right here.
Yeah.
Like, that is insane to me, and the fact that the fact that they keep fucking around with these automated systems to me is like, I almost feel like they're like, well, should we hire people? And they're like, no, well, we spent all this money kind of developing these AI tools. Why don't we like let them do it? And it's like, well, they don't work, sir. And it'd be like, just do it anyway and tell everybody that they do work.
Yeah.
So,
whatever. We're losing advertisers. Tell them that we have new technology. They love new technology.
next up in.
Uh-oh.
Atlas is trying to shut down an independently created PlayStation 3 emulator. So there's a group on Patreon. I looked them up, but I don't have it open right now. I forgot their name. That are creating this thing. It's called RPCS3.
Mm-hmm.
It's a PlayStation 3 emulator that's under development. Currently, there aren't really PlayStation 3 emulators. This is an interesting project, considering the cell architecture of the PlayStation 3 is notoriously hard to make work on a PC because it's got like 8 cores or whatever, and that's the way it programs. So you have to like make a virtual PS3 like hardware in like emulated hardware, so you get a lot of like slowdown because the PlayStation was using this goofy new thing that Sony wanted to do.
Yeah.
It ended up working very well if you programmed specifically for it. It ended up being very poor if you wanted to port something that was made for like a PC onto the PlayStation 3. Huh. Anyway, Atlas basically came after these people for the strangest reason humanly possible. Because on their webpage, they had some information that was how to dump PS3 ROMs onto your computer to test this stuff out. Mm-hmm. And one of the things they were talking about was for Persona 5, which came out on the PS3 as well as the PS4.
Yeah.
Atlas then tried to use DMCA to like go to Patreon and kill their Patreon as well as shut down their web pages and any hosting of these files. When Persona 5 came out, Atlas put out these guidelines about don't stream past day 712 or will DMCA take down your YouTube page. Mm-hmm. And it's like incredibly draconian measures. This is weird to me because it seems like they are super it's this weird thing that I saw very specifically with Shadow of Mordor, where Warner Brothers gave advanced copies of Shadow of Mordor to streamers and YouTubers, and they were like, stream it, but here's the thing. Don't ever say Lord of the Rings. Say Shadow of Middle-earth. Don't show bugs on your channel. Don't refer to this as that. There's this whole list of like what you can and can't do that was normally what you would see from a company that was worried that the game was bad and that you were going to show people that it was bad. But it wasn't bad. It was great.
Yeah.
On this hand, when Persona 5 came out, Atlas said, YouTubers, Twitch streamers, whatever, if you go past this one date in the game, we're going to use the DMCA, which is a copyright tool, to take down your channel, but only if you go past this date for spoilers. And everybody was like, well, you've thrown down the gauntlet to us crap people of the internet. Like the day one, we're going to be posting spoilers. They were spoilers before the game was even out. And now going after a PS3 emulator because it makes like your game possible to be emulated. All this does, if the amount of sales you would have lost from people pirating your game on a PS3 emulator is nothing compared to the bad will that you generate by being draconian and using this law for
I think
suppression.
It's funny how people don't think about it. Like they just are so hell-bent on like hating, like just going so far against this kind of innovation that might actually be necessary. Like there just might be some people that would never play that game otherwise.
At the end of the day, the simple math comes down to most of the people that, what you said, most of the people that are going to go steal Persona 5, which is going to be a multi-disc PlayStation 3 game, and run it on an emulator that probably doesn't run super well because early emulators, it takes time for emulators to get good.
Yeah.
Those people are never going to go buy your game. It's not they're going to be like, oh, gosh darn it, you took down the PlayStation 3 emulator. Better go to the store and spend $400 on a PlayStation.
Now it's like, not only am I going to not play that, I'm probably not going to play the next game we come out with because fuck you.
It's just weird, and it's weird that they're like, most companies don't even bother with this, but like Nintendo used to be real shitty about emulation, but they learned their lesson, and that you can't fucking stop the signal, man. Like, you take down emulation sites all day long, and there's just going to be new ones that pop up over here. You can put them on torrents; they're going to be all over the place. The nice part of this is that Patreon, they submitted this to Patreon, and Patreon basically said, "We don't feel like you have a case here. No, we're not going to shut down their Patreon." As of this recording, their Patreon's still up. Atlas has put out a comment. This is from Game Informer.
And they were like, bitch.
And I was like, bitch. This is, it isn't the emulator itself that we object to. It's the use of Persona 5, including methods of circumvention, that we took issue to. That said, no further action is planned at the moment. So this may be dead and gone.
Fucking fine, then.
But this is another weird thing where when Persona 5 came out and they put out that statement, I feel like the American Atlas release office was like, listen, like Japan corporate told us that we had to do this.
Yeah.
We're not stupid. We wouldn't do this.
Yeah, this is one of those, like, a lower down manager was like, this isn't a smart thing to do. And they're like, you don't run this business. We run this business. You take them down. And then we're like,
this whole damn court's out of order. You can't handle the truth.
This is kangaroo court.
Next up on and I swear that I think this might be the last one. Mm-hmm. This is the turning point. Poor Volition, makers of Saints Row and Agents of Mayhem, is laying off folks. So there are currently about 200 employees at the company, and they're axing about 30 people, which is not great. And a lot of it is because apparently Agents of Mayhem is not getting very much love, not selling real well, which I can kind of understand. I mean, like, I like Agents of Mayhem, but if you were a huge fan of Saints Row 4 and then you bought Agents of Mayhem
it's a letdown compared to that. Yeah.
It would be a very big dramatic shift. Mm-hmm. But I hope that they don't go away, because I want a fucking Saints Row 5 game. I'm willing to play. This is the Catherine, right? I want Saints Row 5 next, and I'll do anything to get it.
Anything, Volition.
Anything. Okay, on our way back up again, let's say huzzah and hooray.
Huzzah and hooray.
Yeah, SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild, and the video game companies. Voice actors in 2016 went on strike because the video game industry was doing a bunch of kind of fucked up shit. Mm-hmm. As always, the game industry was like, oh, these little whiny babies just want blah, blah, blah. But apparently, like, you get blacklisted if you said you wouldn't go out to be a voice actor in a place. They wouldn't tell you what you were going to be working on until you showed up. And then they would also have like really, really long recording sessions that would, like, you know, as
strain
you know,
a voice,
if you're doing a voice, like if I did a whole podcast, like in whatever that is, right? Then like I wouldn't be able to talk the next day,
right?
They also wanted basically a built-in clause for bonuses that if they work on a game and then that game does fucking amazing, they're not looking for points on the back end, but they just wanted some kind of clause that says, like, if I provide the voice of John Marsden and then Red Dead becomes the greatest selling game, I want you to kick me a little extra for the success of the game.
It's weird for these actors that are playing the main characters to get like spec, and then the game becomes this huge blockbuster hit and they get nothing off of it.
Yeah, in fact, speaking of Rockstar, there was actually an issue a few years ago where the guy that played the voice of Nico, I believe. No, was it Nico or was it Roman? I think it was Nico. Went on like his blog and was like, fucking Rockstar did not pay me enough and they fucked me out of all this blah, blah, blah. And then, like, strangely enough, the DLC was about Johnny and the Lost and the Damned and Carlos and the Gay Tony, and there was no Nico Bellic to be found anymore in those games. So,
of course.
But anyway, it seems like there's not really a lot of specifics to this, but it's nice. You know, we think of people like Nolan North or, you know, Kevin Conroy or Mark Hamill or, you know, people who do...
Rob Paulson.
Yeah, people who do good voice work need to be compensated.
Yeah.
So good on you. And I watch a lot of Jim Sterling these days, and he makes an excellent point when he talks about like day one DLC and like microtransactions inside of $60 game type of thing, where it's like any game company that is coming to you and is like, we need all this extra money, they're a bad company. Like if they're like, well,
they're bad people and they should feel bad.
Yeah, if we can't cut you a check because our game was too fucking successful, fucking cry me a river, EA. You're a multi-zillion-dollar corporation. You know, hand somebody a couple extra $1,000. Speaking of corporations and getting zillions of dollars, on the way back up again.
Yay!
So there was a whole controversy about one of the developers on the upcoming Shadow of War, the sequel to Shadow of Mordor. This guy that was like one of their sound designers died. And they decided to honor him by basically putting in this character that's kind of like the mysterious stranger in Fallout 3 that kind of just shows up out of nowhere and will help you from time to time. And it was this big kind of orc-looking dude, and he has like a giant guitar axe because their friend was like he's a musician. Well, they announced this. They put out a trailer for it, and then they announced that it was going to cost money, that you were going to buy that DLC. Then they said that money was going to go to the family, to the widow and children of this guy. But there was a little asterisk, and that was like,
not valid in California.
Not in like 4 or 5 states or out of the United States. And so this generated a lot of people saying, so what happens to the money in those states? And they were like, well, we're going to take care of it.
Goes
and
right up our nose.
And so people were like, no. And to be honest, I don't entirely... The way that Warner Brothers has been treating this, the way that Warner Brothers treated... I mean, you remember Warner Brothers made... They put out Arkham Knight, and like the PC version of that was so bad they took it off Steam and never brought it back.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of people that were like, you don't have a lot of cachet for trust. We think you're just going to take this money. Well, today they decided... they said that their intention was basically to not market it aggressively in those places, out of the country or in those other places, hoping that they would be getting this money in, for the most part, from states where it was transparent, and then they could pass it along, etc. It's caused enough bad PR that today they just said, nope, it's going to be free, and then we're just going to give some money to the family.
Yeah.
So,
which, P.S., would have been easier in the first place.
Yep.
If you had just said, hey, we're going to give a specific amount of money to our friend, and also to honor him, we made this DLC for him to honor his memory or whatever, that would be cool. But to be like, the only way this family's getting money is if you guys shell out stuff for a DLC.
Well, I think that it would be different if the fact, like, Shadow of War looks like a good game, but I haven't really talked about it. John actually talked about it on one podcast, but then I cut it because I just wasn't happy with the way that it all came together.
Then I was like, John is boring, and then you like edited them down.
Shadow of War is a $60 game where they're encouraging you to buy real money loot boxes for the single player game.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
That have like orcs and equipment and stuff inside of them, and it's like, that's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Like, that's worse than just, like, in Deus Ex, the last Deus Ex game, Square Enix made Eidos shove in a bunch of microtransactions, and one of the things they would let you do, because that was also mostly a single-player game, was they would let you just buy the upgrade points, like, in packs off of the PlayStation Store. So if you want to spend $5, just give you, like, 30 upgrade points, and they broke the game, because you're not supposed to be fully upgraded when you start playing the game. You're not supposed to be that powerful. You're supposed to go along the curve. So this seems like not a very good thing. There's only 2 ways that this shakes out. Is one, it either doesn't affect the game at all, which means like, well, then why would anybody ever buy them in the first place? Or the game has been tuned so that they potentially do affect the game, or they cut down, like, say, the amount of grind time or something that you need to do, in which case that's gross because it's a $60 game. I mean, I don't think it should be a controversial stance to say, like, we've all kind of gotten on board with DLC, which are going to have, 3 DLC packs, and you're going to pay $20 for the season pass, or you're going to buy them all individually for $7 or whatever. Here's a map pack. Here's some shaders on day 1. Here's some DLC. We're going to give it to you 6 months later. Here's Johnny Gat. It's $5 if you want it. If you don't want it, whatever. But loot boxes inside of a single-player game is kind of a scumbag move.
Yeah.
Especially for a sequel to a game that wasn't expected to be such a big breakout hit and then was such a good game that we all loved it. Anyway, All right, now we're out of the trough, and let's just run through the rest of these. First up, a really interesting thing. In 2018, Assassin's Creed Origins, the next Assassin's Creed game that comes out, is going to be getting an educational discovery mode. What does that mean, you ask?
I do ask.
It means that this game is set in Egypt, and in educational discovery mode, you can just walk around. There is no combat, there is no timer, there is no story. You basically just walk around, and then you look at the various things in the world, and then it'll bring up
A little pop-up video.
a little,
like,
Microsoft Encarta.
Clay,
Yeah.
Clay pots were very popular these days, and we're often...
You say pop-up video, I say Encarta. So
Dude, I used to play Encarta, though. I know exactly what you're
Dated
talking about. Like,
ourselves.
you used to... Yeah, they'd have a game where you'd have to answer questions
yeah,
on the computer.
but this is cool. I mean, it's going to be a free update. It's just going to be a little educational mode. You can walk around and, look at stuff, get some facts about evisceration from this one screenshot, apparently.
Yeah, that's a weird one to show you.
Mummy making and, like, how people lived. And, hey, you know what? Hey, that's fine. That's cool.
Yeah, that's really neat. That's actually really smart.
Not hurting anybody. You've already made this big...
Like somebody's shitty parent is like, the only way you could play this Assassin's Creed game is if you only play the discovery mode.
and like, okay, Mom. And
Yeah,
like,
Mom.
okay, what is it?
And she's
What's her
gone.
PIN number again? Oh. All right, let's play this.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's
That's
stab some
weird.
people. Speaking of games getting updates, I didn't see this one coming, Amanda.
No, yeah?
Skyrim.
Huh.
Okay, so this is, I'm going to tell you, this is a real good news, bad news situation. Mm-hmm. And to give you the good news first. Apparently, Skyrim is getting an update, and this update is going to add in a survival mode to the game. Now, this is going to basically, a lot of other games have had this already. Fallout New Vegas, I think, had this on the hardest difficulty level. But basically, Skyrim is going to be, the special edition will be adding things in like hunger, fatigue, coldness that you have to like mitigate, so you can't just like wear
You can't
certain
just run
types of
around
armor.
naked and-
right.
yeah.
You won't level up until you go to sleep. You won't get back hit points for just standing still like you do in Skyrim. You have to eat constantly, which actually is good because there's no reason to eat in Skyrim at all, and you could just stand still for an hour.
Why? Okay.
So, okay, to answer your question, why is because people like these modes. People really like
Those people are wrong.
people like. I've got a friend that you can talk to that thinks that
I refuse to believe that.
these types of modes make games more interesting because they make them more realistic. They make the challenge higher, and as the Souls franchise is a great example, the higher the challenge, the more emotional rewards you get for overcoming that challenge. So if you're not just overcoming
I feel like
a
I've gotten
bear-
emotional rewards without having to worry whether or not my fucking character takes a shit. Just throwing that out there.
I'm on your side. But some people like this.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, that leads us to the bad news situation, which answers your question of how. So,
By burning it all down.
also, fast travel is also disabled in this mode.
Fuck this mode. I don't understand. I don't play Skyrim anyway. I don't know why I care so much.
Okay, survival mode is available now on Steam through opting into beta testing, and next week it's going to launch on the PS4 and the Xbox One. Here is this is what you should be looking at.
Uh-huh.
It will be available for free for 1 week for all players. Bethesda hasn't specified how much it will cost after that first week. So you may not know this, but Bethesda just integrated into Fallout and into Skyrim a thing where you can buy credits from Bethesda and then use them to buy essentially mods that Bethesda has made. So it's like they use the mod store to let you cash in this virtual currency for things that they've made. So far, it's been not very great. I don't know specifically if this is going to be that, but it sounds an awful lot like they're going to be using their store to basically make you buy it.
Yeah, it would make sense if they're going to charge you to use their... Yeah.
I'm going to start cutting stories now. Boop, 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 boop,
Bye. Goodbye, story.
So there is a new game coming out by Swery, the guy who made Deadly Premonition and D4 Dark Dreams Don't Die.
Nice.
And it's about the
The happiest town in the world.
It's about a young woman who comes from the city to this small town and discovers a bunch of craziness that is going on here. And in the first trailer, we learned also that at night, everybody in the town turns into cats. Well, it also turns out that there's a dog mode, too. So if you're a dog person, not a cat person, at nighttime,
everyone can turn into a puppy.
everybody turns into puppies.
Cat-like puppies.
Yep. So that is also in the game. I would like to recommend to anybody that if you are interested, this is called The Good Life. And this is actually a game that is being crowdfunded. And it's being crowdfunded on Fig, on Tim Schafer's like certified investor platform. As of the recording, it is at $280,000 of its $1.5 million goal, aka 18%, and we're more than halfway through the investment time period.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to make it.
Probably not, but I do know that for like a lot of GoFundMe's and whatever the other one is that I can't think of what it's called. Indiegogo. That
if you don't hit it, you still get the money.
No, well, I don't know if that's true for this one, but a lot of times those like last few days are the big push. Like people tend to wait until the very end.
I hope this gets funded, not enough to actually put money into it because I don't back.
Just enough to tell you guys to put money into it.
Just enough to say if you're interested, maybe go check it out.
Yeah, I kind of like the art style for it though.
Yeah.
Also, kind of don't like the art style for it. I'm like, I can't explain it. Like, it looks good, but I wish they'd soften the weird
edges.
Yeah, just a little.
Well, they might. This is all like prototyping stuff.
That's
as well.
true. Yeah.
So, like, here's actually a version of her that has the main character that has more rounded edges.
Yeah,
see?
yeah,
So,
and see if it looked like that, I'd like it more.
Yeah. All right. We are just about done, but we have a trailer. We have 3 nice things at the end here just to kind of let everybody know
Nice
about.
little palate cleanser.
Yep. Oh, man, we are over time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The first is a trailer for Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, which is the next game from the guy who brought us Quap.
Yep,
And
sure
it's
is.
about a guy whose bottom half of his torso is in a
Cauldron.
cauldron.
Like a pot.
And he's got a sledgehammer, and he's trying to climb a mountain. And I love this trailer so much,
It's
I wish that I could date it.
Dumb.
It talks about how mean the game is and how he should make a game that appeals to people, but he doesn't want to.
This game was made for certain people, and I want to hurt them.
And I want to hurt
Is
them.
what he
That's
said,
a great
yeah.
tagline. This is awesome, and it's coming out in like a week on a Humble Bundle, and then in the middle of October for everybody.
Nice.
If you haven't watched this, I know that you probably not. Probably most people, probably their friends on Facebook aren't just like, bro, check it out, the new one from that Quap guy. I love Quap. So go check out Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. Next. John Cena is at Nintendo for some reason, and that means that there's a picture of him with Reggie, and that's pretty cool.
Of course.
And then, of course, his great had an amazing time question, though. Why is it just a pic of you and Reggie?
Because you can't see me. So fucking dumb.
You guys didn't see that Amanda did the thing.
I did
in
the
front of
thing,
her
yeah.
face?
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I not a wrestling fan?
I want John Cena to be in Mario.
Have you fucking seen that he made news because he said the new iPhone has a face recognition?
And
he
it
was
doesn't
like,
work?
he was like, great, I can't get this phone, and everyone's like, what? And that's because you can't fucking see him.
I gotta appreciate a man with jorts who sticks to a bad joke. All right, I'm not gonna cast any shade at Monsieur Cena. I do want to know why the fuck he was at Nintendo. This is like Terry Crews at Blizzard.
Yeah.
Tell me why you were at Nintendo, John Cena. Did you just want to play that Mario?
Suspicious.
I think you just wanted to play Mario.
Probably.
And he was just like,
I imagine John Cena just gets to walk into places and they're like, fucking John Cena, sure, whatever.
Yeah. He's like, hey guys, can I play the games? And they're just like, oh yeah, come in,
Yeah.
John Cena. Let's just take a
He
picture. put it on
bursts through a
Twitter."
fucking wall.
And last but certainly not least, this is not for anybody, but okay, so
Sorry, I read the title.
that's all right. Okay. So you know how Dark Souls 1 works, right? Mm-hmm. In Dark Souls 1, you have the whole thing where if you're human, you can summon people into your game, and that if you're human, you can be invaded by other players, and they come in and they blast everybody, and whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
but Dark Souls is old now. Dark Souls is 5 years old, right? So the thing is that if you install Dark Souls on the PC, or if you break out your PS3 or Xbox 360 copy, nobody's going to be online playing it. You might have some cheaters, or some people that are trolls.
Yeah.
But in general, you're not going to have like a good cooperation.
Straight up assholes.
Well, every year they have an event. The community essentially hosts their own event called Return to Lordran. And this year it's starting on October 4th, and it's going for the month of October. And what everybody does, sometimes even Jeff, is bust out your copy of Dark Souls 1 and just play it, and then play it online and like help people and invade people and whatever to basically give everybody a chance to get back into the community for like a month.
Yeah.
And I only am saying this because you can get Dark Souls 1 for cheap. And if you've ever wanted to play it, this is a nice time. This is like a PSA for you going to get a better, closer to like what it was like when
a
it
more
first came
pure
out.
version of the experience
Well, it's
than
just,
you can.
without it, you're going to be by yourself. Like there will be no assistance. There will be nobody to help you. So if you ever wanted to play Dark Souls 1, you can play it during October, and you can actually get people to help you. And the people that are going to be coming back into the game are going to be big super fans anyway. So
Big old fucking nerds.
Big old
Just
nerds.
Like hugest dorks. Like the worst.
The worst.
Like-
And with that, we are done. We're going to take a break. Sorry, it's gone on for so long. We're going to come back. We do have questions.
Woohoo.
We're probably not going to get to do all of them, but we'll be back in a minute. And we're back. And it is 2:30 in the morning. That means it's time for questions. You're asleep, but I'm answering questions.
I'll answer in my sleep. Then you get those deep answers, the ones I shouldn't be answering.
Oh yeah, is it turning into like a ASMR answer? Straight? No, wait, that's a different thing.
That's the like sound videos.
Yeah.
Those are so creepy. Have you ever watched those?
Yes.
Dude, they creep me out.
They are creepy as fuck.
Right, dude. I always feel like you're gonna hear somebody get murdered, and I'm like, I don't like it. I don't like it.
But before we answer the questions, I actually wanted to just take a brief moment. I don't have any actual reviews because I'm in the no, that's not true. I do have a review. But I want to talk about two things real fast before we get into the questions. And we're not going to have a lot of questions this week. Sorry. Get your questions in, though. We didn't have a lot to choose from. So get some questions in. mail@ragelight.com is the email address. Before we get to that, though, I wanted to say two things. One is I've been playing a little bit more of the new Metroid game on the 3DS.
Yeah.
I'm kind of warming up to it a little bit. I
Okay.
didn't have a lot of...
I honestly thought you were gonna be like, it's garbage. It's hot garbage.
Well, I did say that, I think, last week. I'm warming up to it a bit as I get more used to the control scheme. The main issue that I have, and I this isn't really the fault of... There's no way to remap the controls in the game. And I understand why, because they've really put together a control scheme that works best if you use it the way that they want you to use it. I kind of wish that they would let me change some of the buttons around.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a little unforgivable. The main issue that I'm having with it is that it relies a lot on shoulder buttons. So the left shoulder button, when you're moving, you hold it down, and then Samus is rooted in place, and she can aim in any direction with the analog stick and then fire. And then the right button is like a modifier. When you hold it down, it gets your missiles out. So you're going to do a lot of things where you're like using the face buttons and using this stuff, and then you're holding down the shoulder buttons to do stuff. The main issue that I'm having with the game is that I have big old monster hands, and even the new 3DS XL, the bigger one, is a little bit smallish in my hands, and my hands start to cramp up holding the thin square. Like, it's not ergonomic at all. So unlike a PlayStation controller that has like literal handles coming off the side so that it's easy to hold.
You're holding like a straight up rectangle.
Yeah, you're holding a rectangle, which is not like well suited to your hand. And I'm sure that there's some third party that makes little handles that come off the side, and maybe I need to invest in some of those, because when I'm playing an action game, like, it's not a big deal when I'm playing an RPG because I can just set it down, or like Phoenix Wright or whatever. But for this one, there's so much kind of action and movement and stuff going on that I can really only play it for about 30 or 40 minutes before my hands start cramping up, and that's a shame because I would kind of like to play more of it.
Yeah.
Or that's why I like the Switch so much, is because they have that controller where you take the little Joy-Cons and you put it in, and then you have an ergonomic, like, fucking game-ass controller, and not something, because I don't carry my 3DS around with me. I literally play games in my house on it, so I don't need something that fits in my pocket more than I need something that feels good in my hands.
Yeah, you need something you can marathon play, not travel with and play on your bus for 20 minutes before
Yes.
you go to your next place. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I'm still not a big fan of the puck, the little.
Dude, I don't like the puck either.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's a thing, but whatever. I don't know. It
No,
just
I
feels like
do.
It's me.
It's because that's how you can close it.
I
right?
know, but I just don't like it.
Yeah, neither do I. I
Yeah.
don't think it's so.
That was my one big thing when I had a 3DS.
Those two things together create a situation that I've always found incredibly irritating in video games, which is I know what I want to do, but because of the way that the thing feels and the control schema, I end up not being able to just do the thing that I want to do. Like if I was able to play that game with a PlayStation controller, there was a boss I was having a lot of trouble with the other day, and I had to literally just go out and find more energy before I was able to beat it.
Mm-hmm.
I could have beaten it if I just had a regular controller for my big meat ass hands, right? And not just like this little thing. But I'm warming up to it a little bit. I don't like the fact that there's a counter mechanic in it where like when you face an enemy, you have to stop and you need to wait for that enemy to charge you and then hit this counter button and then you get to shoot them really quickly. It takes some getting used to. I don't really like the way that what it means is that whenever you encounter an enemy in the game, you need to stand still and wait for it to attack you because it's really difficult, at least for me. Maybe the children are reflexes are off the charts and they're all fucking super
And their tiny hands
Right.
can do things that my giant hands
absolutely
can't do. Yeah.
But I find it to be in a side-scrolling action game like a Metroid game to be a little bit of a momentum killer to have to stop, you know, like as instead of just like running forward and like you're shooting and you're shooting and you're shooting and you're doing stuff, to have to like stop and not just stop to like to aim at an enemy, but stop and wait for that enemy to attack you and then defend against it. I think it's actually an interesting mechanic if it had been optional, but you have to use it. It's
Yeah.
the most effective way to kill every enemy in the game, so you end up using it a lot more than you use other stuff. When I beat it, I'll give it a full kind of thumbs up, thumbs down. I think it's probably worth playing, especially if you don't have the same dumb hangups about Metroid that I do, and if you're more used to playing on a 3DS, I think it's probably fine.
Yeah.
But the other game that I've been playing the shit out of that I think that everybody should go play is a game called Heat Signature. And
Never heard of it.
John and I played it for the Super Awesome Video Game Show last week, and then I loved it so much that John and I are doing a tutorial video for the first time in a long time for it next week. But this is the latest game by the guy who made Gunpoint. You remember Gunpoint?
I do not.
Okay, so Gunpoint was a very early game that we played on Rage Select, and it was what spawned the asshole Spider-Man with great power comes go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Little guy in a trench coat jumping out of windows and stuff.
Yeah. I totally remember that.
So this game is it's basically you've got a little guy and you are infiltrating these procedurally generated ships and then like stealing stuff and stealing ships and like grabbing treasures and then liberating like a procedurally generated galaxy with a bunch of space stations.
Oh, yeah. Did we talk about the trailer for this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we did. It's $15. It's on Steam, and it's one of those games that looks like if you look at the screenshots for this, it looks basic as fuck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But like, it's so satisfying as a game just to like jump in and be like, oh man, I'm gonna go liberate this thing, and I think it's just really fantastic. Like it's top down, it's procedurally generated. You can do all kinds of funky stuff. It's got a lot of like you have a character that you outfit with different things, so there'll be like teleporters or shields or stealth, and you've got like shotguns and machine guns, but you also got like a wrench and like a hammer, and you can hit people. And you can also pause the game at any point in time when you're in the middle of combat and try to like so there have been situations where like somebody just shot at me, right, and I hit the spacebar real fast, their shot is coming at me. And so I used a teleporter that they have in the game called the Swapper to basically switch positions, and then their shot hits themselves. Or like slow down time, or like jump out the window, or do different things. Yeah, my PlayStation is
listening to us.
It's listening to us, and it's trying to figure out what game I want it to launch. And I'm just like, I don't know. Just do your thing.
All of them at once. Ready, go.
But yeah, this game is fun as hell, and it's It's real basic. I'm really hoping that eventually it gets mod support and that it gets more stuff added to it, because right now there are only 4 different like ship factions, but I can see how it'd be easy enough. It's just a different tile set to add in more of them, and it seems like the sort of game that could grow to become better. Again, it's $15. It's real fun. Watch last week's Super Awesome Video Game Show or this coming one, because they're both about this game. The first one was our first impressions, and then I've already put like something like 14 to 18 hours into this game, and it's real good. So check it out.
Check it out.
All right, our first question this week comes in from Daniel Hood, who says,
Hood.
hello, Jeff and goddamn magnificent Amanda.
Ooh, ooh.
And I've been asking for hypotheticals, so we got a hypothetical.
Oh, okay, let's do it.
I came with a hypothetical for you. Congratulations, you are one of the kids that will go to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Oh, goodness.
I'm on a low-carb, low-sugar diet.
Yep.
Not going to happen.
Sadly, you were one of the bad kids that lost.
Yeah, that's probably true.
And now you have to decide how you exit the factory. You have to choose one of the fates of the kids from the old movie. You will not die, but it will certainly be unpleasant. So which do you choose? Thanks, and take care, Daniel. And then he has a list. If you don't remember, the list is Augustus fell in the chocolate river, was sucked up in a very tight pipe, and is sent to the boiler in the fudge room. Violet eats the experimental gum, becomes a giant blueberry filled with juice, and is rolled out to be pumped. Veruca Salt stands on the Golden Goose weight machine and suddenly drops down the garbage chute heading for the furnace. And Mike TV is shrunk down by Wonka's machine. Is only a few inches tall.
In the taffy puller.
Yeah, they got to send him to the taffy room to get stretched out.
Yep. I love bubblegum, so I would definitely end up chewing. This isn't even like which one I would want to do.
Yeah.
It's just I already know that I would chew the experimental gum because I'm all about that bubblegum.
Yeah, she's the one that gets blown up into a blueberry.
Yeah.
They got to get juiced.
Yeah. Wouldn't be the first time I got juiced.
All right, so if we're going on our own thing, Mike TV was probably what would end up like, I want to be on TV.
Yeah.
And then they'd have to take me to the taffy puller.
No, stop. Don't do it.
I just, you just got to get taken away by the Oompa Loompas, man.
Yeah,
you know?
with the song.
You got to sing a little song about why you're a shithead.
Yeah.
If you here's an interesting tangential hypothetical question. If you were going to be a child and you were going to be sent to the Wonka factory as a winner, would you rather go to the old Wonka factory or the new Wonka factory?
Oh, dude.
Johnny Depp Wonka or Gene Wilder Wonka?
I mean, I love Gene Wilder's Wonka, but his stuff was really scary.
Yeah, he's terrifying.
Yeah.
And, like, at least, Johnny Depp is a weird man-child, but he's got, like, a disco Oompa Loompa party, and, like, they explicitly leave out the part with the chicken heads getting cut off in the boat where he's like, things are getting stranger, and, like, just fucking, like, and as a kid, I still want to know what the story is to that thing.
Like,
why is it in there?
Because people did a lot of drugs back then.
Because it was just like everything else is normal.
Yeah.
Everything else is pretty much in keeping with it, but it's just like it's like an ad break for Satan.
Yeah.
Like, for just a second here, we have to go down Satan's
and he plays it so perfect with like the shrieking
Yeah.
He's so calm and it's so creepy.
Yeah.
I'd still probably do that one.
Yeah, me too, I think. Yeah, probably so.
He's just a better character.
It's true.
Sorry, Johnny Depp. You haven't been a good actor for a while.
I like Johnny Depp, but yeah, something's gone horribly wrong in that man's...
Somebody brought up the point that I can't remember where I heard it, but like Johnny Depp had always been the guy that was like, I don't ever want to be the blockbuster guy. I always want to be the guy that does like my own movies the way I want to do them.
Yeah.
And then he started doing Pirates of the Caribbean, and then he became the blockbuster guy. And I think that's a fair assessment to think that like right around that time is when he kind of stopped doing movies for the sake of doing movies and started doing movies for the sake of maintaining that level of being like...
I can understand that. I think that his original premise holds up if, when he did Pirates of the Caribbean 1, because I think Pirates of the Caribbean 1 is legit a good movie, right? I think like eminently watchable still today.
Yeah, it's like it's nice little swashbuckly, fun.
Great characters.
Yeah.
Is a perfect counterpoint to Star Trek Discovery in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that like they make me interested in Johnny Depp's Captain Jack. Now, eventually, you get tired of Captain Jack Sparrow.
Well, he's good as like the side character, which is what he was, because it was about Orlando Bloom.
Yeah.
And then they just were like, Orlando, who? And then went straight to Johnny Depp again.
Yeah.
For the rest.
But after the third movie, the fact that he came back at all means paycheck time, because that fourth movie with the mermaid, and I haven't even watched the one with Javier Bardem, the last one that came out.
I only watched the first two, and then I was like, I didn't love the first one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, there's a fight on a Ferris wheel, or is that the second one?
That's the second one.
Okay, because that's garbage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, I can't. It's stupid, and I hate it.
The first one I remember very specifically, like I was a real negative Norman about it. I was just like, because there's that line that Keira Knightley has where it's like, oh, you like pain, try wearing a corset, and like hits that guy.
Yeah.
And they put it in the trailer, and I was just like, oh, it's gonna be one of those. And then somebody watched it, and they were like, actually, that kind of like works in the context of the movie, because they have the scene early on
where she tries it on for the first time.
Well, she wears it,
and
then she falls
out,
into the water, and then Jack Sparrow. So, like, there's a whole thing with a corset that then, like, you know. And Jeffrey Rush is so good. Like, that's the thing about Pirates of the Caribbean that I'm trying to say, as opposed to, I mean, pick a lot of different things. Like I was talking about Transformers last week, where they just keep introducing these new characters, and I could just give two shits about them. Whereas, you know, from the moment that fucking Johnny Depp steps off the top of the sinking boat, I was like, I'm into this guy.
Yeah.
And then, you know, as much as it, you know, Keira Knightley, there was a lot of characters in there too, but they, you know, you had the two good guy guard odd couple weirdo, you know, the two guards, and then you had the two pirates that were kind of like their counterpart on the other side with the just a lot of really good stuff in that movie. But then we got Alice in Wonderland and Dark Shadows, and apparently he's just Tim Burton's bitch.
Sweeney Todd.
He'll just do whatever. You know, I wanted to like Sweeney Todd an awful lot, but I found that the songs were too complicated. They weren't like it was one of the reasons I like Moana so much, was because the songs in Moana are just like eminently singable, and you know the words to them, whereas because it was, I guess, a musical, the Sweeney Todd music is just very complicated.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if it was better stage play, because I hadn't seen it as a stage play, but it just seems not right for a movie.
Yeah. We're off on a little bit of a tangent here, but we don't have that many questions this week, so I'll allow it. But have you seen the Hugh Jackman Les Miserables?
No, because I've seen that on stage and I didn't like it.
Okay.
So I was like, why would I ever?
I have not seen it either.
I like the concept of the movie, like, because they sing it live.
Yeah.
As opposed to like singing it in a studio and then going back and like lip syncing over singing over their own track. Because he wanted whoever the director was, who I can't think of the name now, wanted it to be like genuine. Like if there's emotion in that character, he doesn't want their crisp, clean voice.
That 2012?
Apparently, yeah, that sounds about right.
Holy crap.
But he didn't want, like the crisp, like album version of the song. He wanted them to sing in the moment of that whatever event they're is going on.
Tom Hooper.
Ah, yes, of course.
Who did?
Actually, he did a lot of
King's
stuff.
Speech, Damned United, a few other things. Oh, is that Elizabeth? Oh no, it's a TV miniseries. Okay. Anywho, all right. Our next question comes in from Diego. Diego says, "Hello, Jeff and Amanda. Has there been a plot point in a work of fiction that has broken your immersion to the point where it's hard to stay with it? For example, I've been listening to the latest season of The Black Tapes. Without spoiling the tension, they're trying to build with the idea that the protagonists are being watched or followed is pretty much lost when you consider they are broadcasting their every move via a podcast. Love listening to your show and watching you and Matt Frank duke it out in Marvel vs. Capcom. Your loyal patron, Diego." Thank you, Diego. We had a good time with that. Matt was very animated.
Matt's always very animated.
It's very true.
That's why I think he's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, his videos are always funny to me.
On our latest Patreon, where we played Voltron, and I made him look away right when something really awesome happened. And I was like, it was inadvertent, but I still felt the need to just be like,
You're evil. You just like to torture him.
I do.
You're a monster.
I do. He's so fresh-faced. I wouldn't do it for like you're cynical. I would never attempt like what am I going to do?
I think we know that our dynamic is me torturing you.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But like Matt Frank is like my Jeff to Jason Murphy in the beginning of the loading bar.
Okay.
You know, his buttons are so easy to push. I'm like, and that's why Godzilla is a boner piece of shit. He's just like,
He like turns into a cartoon character and just like red face and like steam coming out of his
turns
ears.
into a Tasmanian devil. All right. Has there been a plot point in a work of fiction that's broken your immersion? Absolutely.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
All the time.
I'm just trying to think of one now. It's so hard to like think of it right at the moment.
Actually, I'll tell you what. I'll give you some time to think because I would like to say that for the most part, there are a lot of times where people where there's okay. Get it together, Jeff. Get it together.
Get your emotions in check, Jeff. You're getting too emotional.
I know a lot of people who overthink stuff. Like, I had a friend when the HBO Westworld show was on, who they were just like, what is the mystery? What is going on here? I bet it's this and this. I bet it's this and this. And I'm like, bro, I don't even try to think about that. I'm
Oh,
just like,
dude, I do that all the time.
just watching a show. But every so often, there's something that's so dumb that I'm just like, wait, hold on.
Boo, hang on.
Back it up.
Yeah.
This is a classic. Prometheus. When
Serpentine. Running a serpentine.
not that they had already ruined it by that point. It was the moment when they were like, this is hard science fiction. We're going to this planet, we're doing the thing, and they get out and they're like, beep boop boop, air seems breathable, taking off my helmet. And I'm like, wait, but you're a bunch of scientists. Like, what if there's alien thing? What if exactly what happens?
Yeah.
And then there's the point where the guys are like, there was that. And then the second point was, I'm the map guy. And I am from the map place. And he puts his map thing out. And he's like, I'm mapping the whole thing.
Oh, no, I got lost.
Where should we go? I'm like, you're the map guy, bro.
Yeah. Why did they make the map guy the one that got lost?
And then the exobotanist or whatever that's just like, oh, look at this snake penis. Like, let me get my face right up in this snake penis's face. And then it all was capped off at the very end with a donut rolling behind you, go in either direction. Quit trying to outrun it this way.
Yeah. The poor decisions.
What
if she like made a left turn and then it did the coin, you know, when you like roll a coin and it goes and just flattens out on her? Yeah.
What's funny though is actually I watched the Alien Covenant, and they got away from the whole kind of like asshole cyborg David thing. It was like half that, and then the other half was basically just a traditional alien movie with the aliens, like they're just straight up there. A part I really did like in Prometheus was when they kind of were like, what's all's going on here? And then there's a part where like a proto-alien comes out, and I was like, ooh, I like that. Like, it's not the one of the big navigator guys has like this weird slimy proto-alien thing that comes out of him, and I'm just like, okay, I like that. You're seeing like the development of it. And then in the next movie, it was split between the David is a sociopathic android that's kind of making the aliens, and then like a traditional just like alien on a ship thing.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, oh no, go back to the stupid thing from Prometheus, because I've already seen alien on a ship 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Like, I've seen alien hunts down a bunch of people that can't figure out how to get rid of them a bunch of times. So like, and after Aliens, that's a problem. Fucking Cameron fucked it up, because the Space Marines were like, yeah, if anybody has like weapons, then the aliens aren't as much of a problem. It's just there's a lot of them. Like, if they had a full platoon of Space Marines down there and they were allowed to shoot their guns in the reactor room instead of fucking everybody get out your knives and fucking sidearms. That's another one that bugged me a little bit, but it was because my dad pointed it out when we were watching that movie on VHS when I was a kid, where they're in Aliens and they're down by the reactor, and Ripley's like, aren't those the coolant tanks? Like, if they shoot their guns down there, they'll rupture the coolant tanks. And then fucking Gorman is like, take everybody's ammo, pistols and flamers only, instead of being like, why don't we just back up the fuck on out of
Yeah.
here and give everybody a shotgun? Like, if shotguns are okay, why don't we go back to the truck and rearm? It's been like 5 minutes. And then if we do run, because there was already signs that something was wrong here,
I'm just confused. Why take their ammo?
because like apparently they can't be trusted.
Right.
I mean,
Like-
Vasquez and fucking what's-his-face showed they can't be trusted by smuggling in the little fucking connector mahickeys for their smart guns.
Yeah.
So, which also in every video game and thing since then, the smart gun is like a lock-on thing that like very specifically shoots like specific targets and doesn't just wildly shoot all over the place. So why couldn't they be? Anyway, anything come to mind?
This is a bad one, but for some reason, it's the only thing I can think of. I blame John for me even knowing this much about NCIS. But there is an episode. I don't know if you know what I'm going to say.
I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so they have a few characters that are supposed to be like tech savvy. They can hack in anything, super magic hackers or whatever. There's a point when one of them is like trying to like going through evidence on her computer, and she'll like bring it up on screen. And she's doing whatever, and then somebody starts hacking her computer.
Okay.
And so she's like, they're hacking me like right now. They're getting into my system or whatever. And she starts typing all fast.
Oh,
and
I
then
know.
a guy next to her goes, "Oh, are you doing this?" And she's like, "No, I'm trying to do this other thing." And then he literally pushes her over, and then they're both typing on the same keyboard.
I've seen that.
That's not how any of this works.
That's not how any of it
That
works.
is not. And this girl, like, apparently the actress is actually like a big computer like geek. She's like totally. She actually went to college to do what she does on that show.
Yeah.
Like beforehand, and so she's a super smart girl. And she brought it up to them, and they're like, "Shh, like no, it's fine." And so she was like, I mean, sometimes you just kind of gotta let it go. And they like did that. And oh man, NCIS is the fucking worst. There's another one. I think it's
Is it on Jag?
there's another one where there's a point where they're like, this character, this like guy is a gamer, like the bad guy is a gamer or something.
No, wait. That's
Can't remember.
That's Law and Order. I'm thinking of a Law and Order episode that was like the Gamergate episode of Law and Order.
No.
Where somebody was like doxing, and they're just like, I think Ice Cube is like, "What's doxing?" And they're just like, "That's when somebody puts your shit online."
Oh
And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like-
No. I think no. This is one where like they have
That was the one. That was the first episode of Law and Order I ever watched. Because when I got to the end of it, and it said executive producer Dick Wolf, and I was like, they put a funny joke in at the end. Dick Wolf. Nobody's named Dick Wolf.
and sure enough,
Sorry.
Dick Wolf sounds like a Jason Murphy joke.
It's literally a penny arcade joke.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah.
But so in it, it's something where like you have to beat this game in order to like he hid where the hostages on the game or whatever it was. I can't remember, but it was like important to beat this game, and this whole crew of people are fucking there watching this person that's like, I play video games, and so like he's the person playing it, and the main actor, the main detective, is like looking at the crowd while this guy's like losing at this game, and there's like a teenage girl who's literally nothing in her hands. She's doing the motions of playing the game.
What?
Like she's got the fucking eye of the
She's got the
tiger.
fever.
Like yeah. So he literally grabs her and then brings her up and goes, "You gotta let her play." And they're like, "Why?" And he's like, "Trust me." And then she plays and she beats the game because she had the fucking her finger twitch.
Jen, she got that glow.
Right? It's just like, that's not how any of this works. And then the only other thing I think of is, and I've shit on this before, and I haven't seen the full movie, so if the full movie's good, I apologize.
Yeah.
But the Lights Out short film
Oh.
of the woman seeing a fucking monster in her goddamn hallway, and she like lights on, nothing there. Lights off, there's clearly a monster. Lights on, there's nothing there. Lights off, the monster's closer. Lights on, oh shit, there's definitely a monster there. Anyway, I'm just gonna duct tape the light switch on, and then I'm gonna go to bed. She
Yeah.
literally puts on her fucking pajamas and gets in fucking bed. I would have gotten a, like, if it's a thing where she's like, I'm not going down that fucking hallway, there's a monster in there. I understand.
Yeah.
But don't get in your goddamn bed, like put on your jammy jams and go to bed, like, get a weapon, like at least look like you're fucking concerned, and then not be surprised that the monster gets you while you're fucking sleeping in bed.
Yep.
Oh man, the fact that they got a movie made. Oh, you don't know how mad that makes me.
Horror movies are a whole different story because like Yeah, no.
But good horror movies will have you go, this is how like my logic works. This is how like regular human logic works.
Yep.
And then they go, no, this is how regular human logic works. And then you go, oh my God, fucking finally. That's why Scream was so successful, because these people were like, yeah, I've seen horror movies. Don't go anywhere alone.
Right.
Like, don't
Well, that's
say,
why
I'll be right back.
I just watched, I was watching a horror movie this weekend. I watched The Babadook again. And I think the reason that I like The Babadook so much is that the main character lady is eminently reasonable in the things that she does. Like, not entirely, but she's also very stressed out. But she, like, goes to the police, and they're just like, well, there's a monster? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, where's the book? And she's like, I burned it. And so they're, like, they kind of show her trying to be
she's
a regular
doing
person.
the right things, and it's just like she's so erratic, and the situation is so out of control that there was no...
Yeah, which then the opposite is It Follows, where I just could not... I'm just like, you guys, there's a lot of different things that you could be trying on this fucking monster, but you're really bad at this. You're real bad at this. Like, yeah. The only other thing I could think of that put me in that category was... Alien versus, I don't know, why is it so many Alien movies? Alien versus Predator, the first one. I've told this story before. I literally was watching it, and at a certain point, I just stood up and like walked out of the theater and was like, nope, this is just enough. That's enough.
Yeah.
No mas.
No, thank you.
Like, oh, the Predator and that girl are now friends. Here's a hollowed out alien head and a spear. Come fight with me, human friend. And I'm just like, nah.
And then he like leans into her and he's like, how do you feel about like interspecies dating?
Nope.
I've read the extended universe novel it's based on.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. But I know it exists, that that's actually taken from something.
I like the second one more because it's just like it's like Rambo, except instead of John Rambo, a bunch of predators and aliens come to a small town and then just tear the place to shreds. And I'm like, great. I didn't need fucking...
I can emotionally connect to destroying an entire city.
I didn't need you to make this weird connection with like the Wayland, the actual Wayland of Wayland-Yutani is dying and he's found this thing and they're going down here and it's this ancient temple where predators will come and then they have a machine that unlocks a bunch of aliens so they can hunt them so they can become a man. And I'm just like, I'm not here for the deep backstory of the predator, you wangs.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here to see people, watch him throw the saw blade and then somebody's head gets cut into. I want Gary Busey in there hosing him down with a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, that's true.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger covered in mud. I think Predator, the first one, is one of the greatest 80s action movies, science fiction action movies ever made. Perfect plotting, perfect setup. Dylan, you son of a bitch. It's so great. Between Jesse the Body Ventura and fucking...
This will make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus. Yeah.
That movie is the closest I've come. That movie is like one of the only movies that I watch and it has a hard F-bomb, like an offensive, like the bunch of slack-jawed F-words. And I'm like, and that's not a very nice word, but like, goddamn, I like this movie, and I'm kind of just want to get past that.
Yeah. I got another one. We could bring it back to Johnny Depp.
Okay. Crybaby.
I fucking love Crybaby. And I will get a lot of shit for this because I know a lot of people that love it. Edward Scissorhands.
Really?
Yeah. You know what takes me out of it? His
Everything.
goddamn scissor hands. Who makes a human and goes, I don't have hands made. I better put as many sharp objects on the thing you use for anything. For literally everything.
Yeah, I mean, like, you could have just put, like, because he can manipulate the scissors.
You could have just left him with stumps and he'd be a more functional human being.
Well, if you could put a thing that was going to act like a finger already, rebar hands. Edward Rebar Hands could at least try to pick things up with his rebar fingers.
I don't understand. Like, I get it. I get, like, it's Tim Burton thing, and like, of course you do. It's
Tim Burton.
No, I don't fucking like it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I never liked that movie. It's like, why didn't you just take off his fucking hands?
I'll tell you what, though, that's not the worst part of that movie.
Winona Ryder with blonde hair.
I mean, why? I mean, just why?
Was that what you're going to
Why?
say?
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Why would you make Winona Ryder blonde? Why didn't you pick somebody that was blonde?
If you're going to make her blonde, why didn't you blonde out her eyebrows? It just looks fucking weird.
Yep, or do that too.
Fucking why?
Blonde them eyebrows out.
He blonded who is it? Christina Ricci and goddamn Sleepy Hollow too.
Sure enough, did.
Yeah.
Yep,
Why?
yep.
Why? They're gorgeous, and your fucking goth aesthetic asks for dark hair. Why?
You
do
married
make
Helena
them-
Bonham Carter.
Well, they're divorced, so.
All right, this next one is more for me than it is for you, but if you have any answers.
Fuck, of course it is.
Hey, man. By the way, I gave you a real open end there to complain about black tapes with our last one.
I know, but I haven't listened to the new one. I
Okay.
listened to the first episode of this new season, and I didn't remember a single thing that happened. And I don't mean like in the past season. I mean I literally listened to it, and it went in one ear and out the other. And I feel like it ended perfectly last season, so it just it's not worth it.
Okay. Excuse me. This is an anime question. Comes in from Julio. Julio says, "Hey Jeff and Ultra Mega Omi Death Amanda. After recently playing Gundam Versus Beta on the PS4, I really wanted to get into the Gundam series / mecha genre. My friend recommended me to watch Gundam 00, the Gundam Origins OVA, and Macross Plus, but I wanted to see what you or Amanda would recommend for a Gundam / mecha first-timer. Also, why isn't there more mecha-based video games out there? Thanks, Julio." Good question about the
Isn't
mecha video games.
Titanfall, a mecha video game.
He's talking about like anime mecha, which has kind of got a whole different genre and lineage than American robot stuff. So, have you watched?
There's a Voltron VR game coming out.
Wait, no, I played it. That's what I was talking about with Matt and I.
Oh,
it came out this week.
Oh, that was that.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I totally spaced on.
It was pretty fun.
I stopped listening when you were talking.
Yeah, no, I understand. I don't know. What do you have?
I've never watched.
Okay.
No, John watches, and I run out of the room crying.
Okay.
He puts on. I don't know if he actually watches a lot of it, but I know he's definitely watched some Gundam. Definitely dated an anime guy that was way into it.
Okay, so I can tell you that Gundam is a hard sell because you got to go back to just like straight Gundam to get the beginning of it, and then Gundam splits into a bunch of different universes. So like Gundam Wing is all the bishy young boys with like big giant mechas. That's for a lot of girls. I don't know,
Ladies.
Ladies.
This one's for you.
I mean, also dudes. I mean, whatever you like, what you like. So
People that like the Huangs.
I'm not even saying that. I'm saying there's people that like it. I like Gundam because it was a very early kind of example of mecha anime, and it was like a war movie basically, where they always went out of their way to portray both sides and to show why both sides were doing what they were doing. So like in Macross, which was the old you've seen the the F-14 that turns into a robot, is a very basic thing. It's been around forever. Anyway, Veritech fighters.
This is my blank stare.
Yeah. Yep. So the Gundam, the bad guys in Macross were called the Zentradi, and they were just these big aliens from another planet that were blowing everything up, and we got to go stop them. Right? In Gundam, they spent a lot of time with both sides of this conflict between people who were born in space and people who were born on Earth, and the conflict between the two of them, so that you get it from both sides, which sounds really gross, but the story...
I mean, it really depends on who you are, isn't it?
Foul, dirty person. So...
We in the business like to call it a seesaw.
If you want a good entry into Gundam, there is a series that is my favorite Gundam series, and it is called the 08th MS Team Gundam.
At least they don't make it a complicated name.
Yes, yeah. It's on Hulu. You can watch it all on Hulu. And it is basically a lot of Gundam takes place in space, and a lot of it is the story of this guy named Amuro Ray, who's like the best pilot in the whatever the good guys, and then Char Zabel, who is like the top pilot, the bad guys, and how like living in space is pushing human evolution to another level, blah 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 blah. The 08th MS Team is basically a Vietnam movie. There were giant robots, so it's like this guy who comes down to Earth to be part of this team that's doing ground operations on Earth, and they basically have these teams that go out into the jungle where you've got 3 people in giant robots and then one little hovercraft that's like their support thing, and it's very realistic. So like, there's parts where they have to stop and open up the suits and start repairing stuff because they're in the desert and sand got in it and blah blah.
Yeah.
And, sand.
God, I don't like sand. It gets everywhere.
There you go. Thank you. I think the 08th MS Team is actually a really good introduction for Gundam because it tells you about the Federation. It tells you about the Zeon. And it tells you, it kind of gives you a nice story that goes through both of those. It's a very human story, and it doesn't require that you know anything about any of the rest of it. It's a side story that works very well on its own.
So all these like individual ones, some of them might, but a lot of them just kind of have their own little world to run with. Does that make sense? So you don't have to be like, you got to watch all the way from the beginning and get all the way over here.
That was one of the reasons I feel like they did the spin-off series, because you started Wing Gundam that was a new Gundam. Like there's a new one that's on called Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Jesus.
That I don't like because the main character is a sociopath, like 12-year-old, and I'm just like, I don't like this. But they will from time to time throw out a new series that's a jumping on point for people who haven't been watching it for all these many years.
Okay.
If you really want to see what like the pinnacle of Gundam, the Space Gundam stuff was, you can watch Char's Counterattack. And what I would recommend if you want to do that is just go read a wiki entry about who Amuro Ray and Char Ensemble is, and then like watch this movie. It's a giant movie that was the end of the original. It was supposed to be the end of the original Gundam series. People literally killed themselves in Japan when this came out because they've been watching Gundam their entire life and they loved it so much. But Char's Counterattack...
There's a giant Gundam in Japan, isn't there? Like an actual like life-size...
It's got a bunch of lights that light up behind it.
Yeah. People get married underneath it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's cool. If I ever go, I want to see it. But Char's Counterattack and 08th MS Team Gundam. Also, Gundam Unicorn is like... It takes place in a weird part of the series, but it's a self-contained story that takes place in the original universe timeline, and it's pretty good. It's also very modern. There's also a couple of others that I haven't watched. I'm not the biggest. There's actually probably people in the comment section who will be able to give you better recommendations.
There are probably frustrated people in the comment section typing up right now.
Tappity 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 tap tappity tappity tap. But I can recommend a few other things. Gurren Lagann is a series that it kind of spoofs old mecha series is about this guy that lives underground, and they find this little robot head and they take it up, and then it's kind of these humans all live underground and they're being oppressed by these giant monsters that live on the surface. It's a very bombastic show. It's very just in your face. I think if you want something that's kind of fun and goofy but also has a lot of kind of mecha stuff, that's fun. One of the classics is Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is all kinds of up its own ass. But if you want to, you can watch. They created the original series went for 25 episodes, I think, or somewhere around there. And the last two episodes sucked balls. The ending was garbage. And actually, that was a series directed by the guy who did the new Shin Godzilla movie, Hideaki Anno. So the ending sucked. Years later, he made a movie called The End of Evangelion that was made to take the place of those last two episodes.
Pretend these didn't happen, or we added on to make it better.
Yeah, that movie is like makes sense, and then at about the same point every time I watch it, at about 60 minutes in, it just goes whoop, and I don't understand what the fuck is going on. Like, it's completely confusing what's going on, because Hideaki Anno is kind of like Kojima, where he likes to get all highbrow about like the meaning of life.
Yeah.
But he recently went back and made 3 movies that are out currently called Rebuild or Rebirth of Evangelion, where like the first movie takes the first like 12 episodes and compresses them, and the second movie takes like the next 10 episodes and compresses them, and then the third movie just diverges wildly into a brand new kind of take on it. But they're just like 2-hour movies, so you're not watching 12 hour-long episodes.
Yeah.
I want to look through this list, but there's some other mechas out there.
Oh my god, there's so many.
Oh no, this is nothing. We haven't even gotten to like the old crappy stuff. There is a show that is, I'm trying to think of what it's called. There's some of the old ones. Guy King and Great Manziger. We were just talking about that with Matt Frank.
Yeah, this is a Matt Frank question.
Yeah, Guy King.
Although if you want to talk about going over time, I bet Matt could talk about this topic for a very long time.
Absolutely. There's another one that I can recommend, but I can't remember the name of it. No, wait, hold on. It's coming to me. It's Macross Plus that he listed is actually very good. There's a 2-hour movie cut, but I recommend the 4 or 5 episode OVA because they took a 4-hour story and then squeezed it into a 2-hour movie. But that story, like, because the Macross story is about like a bunch of people fighting space aliens, and then they win with the power of fucking Minmay, who's like a pop singer, and they literally project like giant holograms of Minmay singing, and the aliens are like, "What is this? I feel such love in my heart." And then they just blow them all up. Fucking stupid.
There's an episode of Duck Dodgers in the 21st and a half century where they thaw out a cryogenically frozen Megadeth. And Dave Mustaine actually does his own voice. And then they play metal to destroy an enemy.
That's cool.
Yeah, the enemy was a giant saxophone playing smooth jazz.
But the Macross Plus is basically a story about they're trying to figure out what the new jet for the fleet's going to be, and so they have these two pilots that are each part of these development programs that are trying to like kind of outfly each other, and so it's a very personal story. It's fun. So
it seems like some of these are like much more like single characters, and then some of them seem broader and more like war stories.
Yeah.
That's all I've come out with this. I got nothing. I just referenced Duck Dodgers in the 21st and a half century.
The last one I would recommend to you, and it's been a while since I've watched this, but it's called Martian Successor Nadesico. Martian Successor Nadesico. And this is kind of it's kind of a take on.
Oh my God, their hair is amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of a take on. If I think I'm remembering the right thing. It's kind of an interesting take on, like a bunch of people go to space and they do a thing, but then it kind of incorporates like the old 70s style mecha. Like the guys, they have like robots that fly out and do missions for this like spaceship. But there's one guy who was like super into, like, imagine inside of the series, there was like one of those late 70s mecha shows that he was really into. And so like when they go out to fly missions, he's always like screaming the name of the movie he's going to do. And it actually plays into the plot eventually.
It's like a little meta almost.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting show. And I would highly recommend that anybody else throw down in the notes, say some other stuff. Make sure that it's noob friendly. So. All right, I think we got time for maybe one more question. Let's do one more question.
Okay.
Brandon.
Well,
we might have two questions. I don't know. This last question's a hypothetical that I don't know really works entirely well. But Brandon says, hello, Jeff and Amanda. Brandon here with a question to appease, well, me. I can't afford to buy every game that comes out, so I rely on reviews. But you only talk about games you played occasionally, and I must know which site, in your opinion, has the most honest reviews. So many sites seem like they're afraid to say how the game truly is because of publisher backlash. I might be wrong, but who knows? I'm glad you're doing the podcast. It's the only thing. I'm glad you're doing the podcast. It's the only thing I managed to keep up with.
Oh,
and yet still, he's a loyal patron, Brandon. So, hey, Brandon, thanks as always for your support, and
we love you.
We do. So do you have a go-to place for reviews?
I actually refuse to look at reviews.
Oh, okay.
Whether it's movies or video games or books or anything else, I don't care for other people's opinions.
Okay.
So if I want to know how something is, I mean, really, I'm a big don't take our word for it. And then I just, like, if I'm interested in a book or a movie or whatever, like, I trust my friends' opinions, and then I just go on that.
Okay.
I don't like it's especially for video games, I don't really have a way of doing anything because I already know my style, so I'm like, this looks cool, I'm gonna try it. Or like John tells me what to play and then I play it.
Yeah.
And then you tell me what to play and then I just avoid it.
There you go. It's a good policy.
Yeah.
It's good. You got a good system going on there.
Yeah, it's worked out for me so far.
If you don't have Jeff or Amanda in your life, or Jeff or John in your life to tell you what stuff's going on, I find Metacritic to be kind of the best of all worlds. And specifically, what I like to do is take a game off of Metacritic, and a lot of times, if a game gets a high Metacritic score, okay, so there's a couple ways that I feel like you can use Metacritic to your advantage. The first is, but the problem, Brandon, is that unless you find somebody like, I don't know, Giant Bomb or Jim Sterling or, GameSpot or whatever, IGN, like if you find a place where your overall impressions of games and their overall impressions of games kind of match up.
Yeah.
That's one way you can do it. You can actually use Metacritic to do that by going and finding games and like looking at who gave it the scores. Like find a controversial game that maybe like everybody liked but you thought was okay, and then go see what publication said it's all right. But if you're not willing to do that, you can do other things, but with a little bit of work. So what I recommend is if you go to Metacritic and you look at a game, like we're looking at the Cuphead review right now. And so Cuphead has an 84 Metacritic score, which is critics, and has a 5.4 user score. So the thing that I would recommend doing, now see, there aren't any actual written user reviews. So right now I wouldn't really trust that, because if the user score differs, the user score is almost always lower than the critical score, but you have to go to Metacritic and see if people are review bombing a game because they're like, fuck EA, I don't like EA, so this game I'm giving it a 0. I'm giving it a 0. Like, that's my problem with Steam reviews, is that people on Steam will give a thing a thumbs down because they're like, not 60 FPS, no full screen support, fuck this game. And it's like, but what about the story or the graphics or the controls or the sound or the music?
Or how it is as a game in fucking general, and not just this one weird aspect that you're butthurt over.
Yes. Not that those aren't important to some people, it's just that doesn't tell me anything about the game. Like, if it was a good game, but it had some bugs, well, bugs can be patched out. And a lot of people are like, I'll change this review if they fix bugs, but they never really do.
Yeah.
So here's Cuphead again. And so now we're looking at 5.4 user score, 84 Metacritic score. And then what I usually like to do is come down and take a look at under the critical reviews, positive, mixed, and negative. If it's a thing that has a ton of reviews, that's usually a little bit, I find that to be a little bit safer to trust the score than if it's a thing like this has 10 reviews as of looking at this, because the game isn't even out yet.
Yeah.
So, you know, Games Radar gave this 100. I usually don't trust anything that gives a game a
100
full, you know, a full review. So what I'll usually end up doing, one of the ways that I like to evaluate things is I find the lowest score, read the review, and then see why that person gave it that low score, and see if I find that that's some bullshit. Like, because usually they'll tell you why they gave it a low score.
Yeah.
Like when we were looking at some of the reviews for Agents of Mayhem, and there were places that were just like, the humor is puerile humor, 0, and it's just like, well, I love puerile humor, so like, fuck you, you know. That you can kind of suss out, you know, whether people are giving it a tongue bath. But I mean, most places can't get away. There's also the thing that you could say with, if you just treat a 70 like a 0 and 100 like 100, and then do the math, because most places won't give things super low scores.
Yeah. Because they don't want that kind of heat.
Yeah, but the main thing is just to look at games. You can probably tell. I feel like in this particular day and age, you can go to YouTube and you can look up a game and you can tell whether that game is.
Unless your instincts are balls, you could usually trust your instinct. If like, this looks like a game I want to play.
Yeah, I agree. Don't have balls instincts. That's the takeaway from this. So yeah, that's what I would recommend, Brandon. I'm sorry that I don't do as many game reviews anymore. I can't even fit. I got 4 games. I got the Death of the Outsider, Heat Signature, Metroid Fusion, and or Metroid, not Fusion. It's whatever, the Samus Returns or whatever. And then Ruiner came out this week, which I want to play. Remember the trailer with the Daft Punk guy with the writing on his face, and it says Cyberpunk, and you're punching people?
Yeah.
Came out this week. So, and that's not to mention the fact that I would love to go back and play Mario and Rabbids or Persona 5 or Nier Automata.
You don't know how awful it's been that we, like, John and I will be in a store and we'll walk past the Nintendo Switch, and I'm like, I kind of just want to buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just have to sell my dog or something.
I don't think you could sell your dog.
I mean, I could try.
I mean,
she's adorable. I could sell pets on the street corner. Yeah, she wouldn't like it, but, you know.
Yeah.
Make some pretty penny.
Okay, there you go. Amanda's quitting her job to go into the
the pimping dog industry,
the freestyle pet business. Hey, buddy, you want a hamster? I got a really cute hamster over here. And that's it for this week, folks. That's the end of the Rage Select podcast. Make sure to write in. We always need questions. Mail at rageselect.com is the email address. And if you think about it and you like Rage Select, no Patreon pimping or anything like that, but maybe consider it every so often if you see a video that you like, or if you hear a podcast that you like, hit the share button. You know, share it out to people on Facebook or Twitter or whatever.
Let people know we exist.
we would appreciate it. I enjoy existence. Good night.